lists that are already in the studio, that they should unmute their mics. And then on the bottom right of the chart, there is an option where, provided they want to intercept the conversations, they can drop or the comment whatsoever that they would want to say. And welcome, Comrade Munya. As we might have seen that Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 has gone through the parliamentary processes of first and second reading, and then it has also been debated upon, Parliament with a lot of, procedural inadequacies or deficiencies that have been highlighted. But the major concern and issue why we've converged to the People's Summit is that we have a people's reflection of the bill, a people's perspective, and then we gather all actors that have been actively involved in, conscientizing people about the bill implications and so forth, and also more so to have a people's reflection of what they probably think about this bill. So thank you very much for having us, Comrade Munya, as you are going to outline the objectives at a more critical level of this summit. You can take the stage, Comrade Munya.
Thank you, Comrade. Amandla, Shinga Mshandi Shinga. Tumelani, comrades, Salivonani, Kwaziwai, greetings and salutations. My name is Munya Gwisai. I am in the leadership core of the International Socialist Organization, as well as the leadership core of the Defend the Constitution Platform, DCP, and Vashandi Z7Z Working People's Collective. Thank you very much for having me to share with comrades on this very critical moment that we face in the country as working people, as Democrats. The People's Summit is a very timely intervention in terms of mapping the way forward and dealing with the way forward. So I want to congratulate and thank the comrades who have worked tirelessly to ensure that the summit takes place. And welcome comrades from all over the country, from the diaspora, as well as those, who are following in the ranks of the working class, the left, the democratic movement in our region, in Southern Africa, in Africa, and globally. Let us all share together in this summit and find a way forward. So we look forward to fruitful discussions that will take the struggle forward. We are at a critical moment, comrades, in terms here where we stand. Clearly, I think, as you've said, Comrade Chair, if you see the charade, the fuss that is unfolding in Parliament since Wednesday, the choreography, the trampling on democratic rights of participation of those who oppose the bill, is very clear that the regime is serious and determined to fast-track this thing through. It is a mirror of what happened in the March-April parliamentary consultations that we saw all over, where ZANU-PF and the regime, financed by the money of the Ganandas, were able to just push through a fuss of a consultation. And you've seen the outcome of that process reported pasina nyadzi, pasina shame in Parliament. Once over 500,000 submissions were made and only 3,000 objected. So that is clear. This regime, Mnangagwa, Gananda, are clear that they are going to be pushing this thing through. And we if there were a moment of hesitance, lethargy among some of us in the democratic oppositional movement, in the working class, this is a time for a wake-up call that we face an existential threat, a fundamental threat to the gains that have been made by the struggles led by workers, students from 1996 through to 2000, which ultimately gave birth to the 2013 Constitution. So it is clear that those gains that are manifest in a political framework that is consistent with what thousands, over 50,000 of our youth, our women, our elderly fought for against the brutal, savage Ian Smith Rhodesian British colonial state. The fundamental demand of that state was that power must be derived from the people who are governed. That is why, therefore, you had the slogan, one man, one woman, one vote. Fundamental to it is that in a democratic society, power must be derived, authority must be derived from the people. Any other form of power is illegitimate and must be resisted and must be opposed. But related to that is that all human beings are equal, and the resources of our society must be shared equitably so that mwana oga oga anokwanisa kuwa na chikoro, muri yoga yoga inokwanisa kuwa na raramo. People get shelter. It does not make sense that in a country with over scarce minerals, including gold, which is experiencing a boom today, 49% of our people live in extreme poverty. The same kind of situation that we had under colonialism. So that is why people went to war. So it is therefore the same thing that was then, that is reflected to a large extent, not fully, but to a large extent in the 2013 Constitution, that legislative power from Parliament, constitution here, is derived from the people. That executive power is derived from the people, judicial power is derived from the people. That is what was won from the struggles of 96 to 2002, reflected in the 2013 Constitution. Reflected in the aspect that there must be separation of power, checks and balances, and on the exercise of executive power in particular. A reversal here, the executive presidents that Mugabe and ZANU-PF had introduced in 1987. That the constitution must include the fundamental social economic rights of the people. The right to land, the right to fair wages, living wages, the right for shelter, the right to food, the right to water, all those things that you see in Declaration 4 of the Constitution. And in Section 328, we then say you cannot change those things without going back to the people who are the ultimate source of power. So what we are seeing now is an attempt to reverse that. And it is clear that unless they are resisted and fought, they are going to proceed to do so. They've already put a budget of $31 million and probably more to bribe, to co-opt not only MPs, but all other segments of society to ensure that this nefarious agenda will succeed. So, comrades, and I think for those who are in ZANU-PF, this is an agenda of a cabal and a clique, which will not only affect the rest of society, but also including the ordinary members of the ruling party itself. And for those who have been sidelined, like the generals, the Mnangagwa made it very clear. In their letter, they've made clear that Mnangagwa is the principal architect, the principal beneficiary of this, together with the cabal of super rich predatory capitalists who are financing it, Jiganand, and others. So they are clear and they are going to proceed. So we have to fight, we have to resist. This is why we are coming in this summit. What we seek to do in this summit, comrades, we seek to carry out an audit of how our resistance and fight back has been to date. We will do an unpacking of the CAB3, what it stands for. We'll have comrades who speak. They'll give us an update of what is happening. Our various movements and organizations will also give us progress reports of what we've done so far and how far we have gone. We will also look at specific areas such as, the woman question and the attempt at reimposing patriarchy and pushing back the woman in the kitchen. That is reflected by the attempt to dissolve the Zimbabwe Gender Commission. We'll look specifically at the provisions of CAB as well as the general democratic scenario. But the reason why this has been convened, as I say, I'm from the DCP, the Defend the Constitution platform, but you see that with comrades from CDF, Constitutional Defense Forum, with comrades from the National Constitutional Assembly, with comrades coming from the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, we have people coming from the faith-based movements, ZINASU, the National Students Movement, which has been at the forefront of this fight. And indeed, right at the start, I must salute the young warriors and brave warriors of ZINASU, who in the consultations were at the forefront in Harare, the City Sports Center, of daring and taking to defend democratic space in the face of a brutal mobilization by the ruling party and the state. And for that, the leadership of these comrades today, as we have this summit, are incarcerated at Harare Remand Prison to punish them, but also critically to send fear into the rest of the youth of this country that they must not fight back. So I want to salute the various comrades led by Comrade Sitima, Comrade Hamauswa, Muka, and all the other comrades who are detained today. They detain them for no offense really, but to instill fear. And as they did towards Sadiq, they've denied them bail to try and do so. But the holding of this summit, comrades, I think is the very thing. We saw them last week. Their spirits remain strong. They remain undeterred. And this kind of summit that we're doing is what will strengthen them and to remain resolute and strong and take our struggle forward. So that's by way of introductory remarks, comrades, and what we hope to achieve. Just briefly in terms of rationale, purpose, and objectives. Where we are today, comrades, is that we are building. The summit is not the start of the struggle. The summit is building on very important activities and achievements that have been made by our various organizations, movements, including civic coalitions like DCP, CDF, who have played a leading role in bringing together people in this. But as we've said, from our various angles, we've also been from the churches, the students, etc. The NCA, National Constitutional Assembly, they've all contributed to this moment. So what we are doing is to build on what has been already initiated and done by the different movements, coalitions, and organizations. And let's not underestimate what they've done. What they've done is important. It is important insofar as right from when ZANU-PF, immediately with ZANU-PF reiterating its CAB3 agenda at its October 2025 conference in Mutare. Comrades from political organization movements like the NWG, Transform Zimbabwe, got together with worker movements, socialist movements like ourselves from AESO, Vashanti, Zisewenzi, and others like the CDF. And we announced that this was not going to pass, that we were going to fight and resist this. And we announced a press conference, a united press conference where we're going to unite together and fight. and at Sapes, which was bombed, where Professor Ibo Mandaza had graciously provided the venue for that. But so right from the word go, there's been a fight back, and that fight back was also reflected in the consultations that came through. And as a result of that, in terms of the national conscience, the issue of CAB3 has become the fundamental question of the day. Today, it is the issue that is recognized as the fundamental issue that must be fought today. So to that, we must acknowledge the role that was played by the pioneering organizations. Many were slow in seeing the importance of this, including leading figures in the oppositional movement, notably people like Nelson Chamisa and others, who argued that there was no constitution to defend, but also others, like many leaders of the labor movement who were slow to come through. But I think the positive thing is the moment we are at today, many of these colleagues have now come full on board. You can hear the statements that they are making, including Chamisa, fully on board, accepting that we must fight together, CAB3 must be destroyed, including the ZCTU, which came up with a powerful statement submission. But others who are traditionally, reluctant to take public positions, like the Law Society of Zimbabwe, the lawyers, being reluctantly forced to come out with a statement that there must be a national referendum to justify CAB3. The churches, the Catholic Church, the Zimbabwe Council of Churches have come out strongly. So all that, I think, has created a national mood for fighting back, for a national mood of rejection of CAB3. But it is not enough that we denounce CAB3 in our tweets, on social media, in our church sermons, in our various labor forums, and so forth. The moment we are now, comrades, and with what we are seeing in Parliament, clearly it's a charrette. It's going to be fast-tracked. Likely by end of this June, they will have passed. They are determined. Mnangagwa made it clear to the generals, and the generals have also made it clear that on their part, they see that this is the war veterans have also made it clear that they see this as a thing. So it is absolutely essential, comrades, that we map up the way forward post, and we cannot have faith and illusions in institutions of the regime. Yes, people are going to court, war veterans, constituents have all gone to the Constitutional Court. But as you already saw, the Constitutional Court refused to have a live beamerage of its proceedings, showing that the tendency that is inherited from Chief Justice Matlala, of where our judiciary is an enabler of autocracy under this regime, continues. So ultimately, it is clear that we cannot rely on elite institutions, compromised institutions, to fight and take on CAB3. So the is that, but also equally clear, comrades, is that our performance in the parliament consultations was poor and weak. Although we bravely went there, we were outnumbered. Our voice was divided. We were weak. We were fragmented. We remained fragmented and divided. And indeed, it was at a realization that we came across at the Harare Civic City Sports Center, when the City Sports Center, ZANU-PF, passed thousands of activists. It became clear to us after Chitungwiza that if we remain fragmented and divided, we were going to perish in our division and in our isolation. So we must carry out an authentic, honest audit of where we've been, where we failed to date, and where weaknesses are, as well as our strength. And clearly, one of the weaknesses has been that of fragmentation and division, where you have DCP, where you have CDF, where you have NCA, where you have ZCTU, where you have major political organizations not working together in a coordinated, integrated program. Yet our enemy, our opponent, is working together. It's working as a single oiled, moneyed machinery. So we recognize that. We, you know, there's no way forward from that. And indeed, just to share with comrades here, on the morning of that Harare City Sports Center intervention, I think on the 2nd of May, we were able to quickly get together the leadership of the DCP, the leadership of CDF, the leadership of the NCA, and also sections of the opposition leadership, you know, in terms of comrades like Ostalos, Sisiva, in terms of the old Triple C in Parliament. And we managed to agree that we're going to go to the City Sports Center as a united force and fight back together as a force. And that's what exactly we did on the 2nd of May, as you saw in Bay 8. Because without that unity, comrades, we would have perished in that City Sports Center. But we recognized at the last moment that unity is the only way forward in order to take on this thing. And indeed, I think a day after, we issued a joint press statement issued by the leadership of the DCP, convener Timber, the convener of CDF, Tendai Biti, as well as the president of NCA, Matuku, and myself, where we announced the nation that we must fight together as a unit. So that process is still continuing, but the purpose of this summit is to address a second weakness that we've observed. The second weakness is that the resistance and leadership of this struggle has remained at the top. It has not drawn in the rank and file, the masses of the movement. It has remained elitist and class-based. It is dominated by middle-class elites. It is dominated by leaders of civic groups, leaders of political groups, but their rank and file is not coming, because if they were, we would have outnumbered and taken ZANU-PF out at the large city hall in Mlawa. We would have taken out ZANU-PF in Tangambura. We would have taken out ZANU-PF in the City Sports Center. So for that reason, we seek, if we are going to truly take on a CAB3 today, we cannot do so as leaders, as elites. The masses of the people, the rank and file of workers, of youth, of party supporters have to move to the center of this struggle. It has to become a people-controlled and people-dominated resistance. This is exactly how the liberation... Hello?
We have 2 minutes remaining on your slot.
Thank you. So this is how the liberation war was fought. The liberation war was fought on the basis of Chimbrido's, basis of Vanamujiba, Vanamai, Vanababa, as part of a total mobilization of the masses to fight for victory. This is what we require today, comrades. So we hope that the summit is going to lay its key objective, is going to lay a foundation and a basis that will allow the various fragmented efforts to come together and fight a joint struggle, but also ensure that this is a joint struggle that is mass-based, collective-based, in which there is no single messiah, no individual who takes their position as superior to anyone else, but together we fight. But we also not just fight for democracy in terms of CAB3. We fight to ensure that we resist the austerity, the poverty, the neoliberal agenda of modern day capitalism being enforced, not just in this country, but across Africa, across globally, by the tribe of the super rich. Because you do not just have Ugandandas in Zimbabwe, you have Ugandandas at a global level, led by the likes of Trump. So we wish you, comrades, a powerful, fruitful summit today. Be honest, be frank, but also be fraternal and comradely to each other. This is a meeting of comrades, a meeting of fraternal people. Together, we'll be able to come up with a collective way forward to take on this attack on democracy, this attack on working people arising from a deepening crisis of the system of capitalism that we have in Zimbabwe and globally, and become part and parcel of the global movement of people rising up. I conclude, comrades, by saying we have the power. Do not be misled, deceived that we do not have the power. The ultimate power lies in our streets, in our factories, in our barracks, in our campuses. If we unite that power, we saw it work in Madagascar. We saw it work in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. It can work in Zimbabwe and other places as well. So we wish you a powerful, successful summit and to come together with a collective way forward. CAB3 shall be destroyed. Austerity shall be destroyed. Gananda and the capitalist class shall be defeated. Amandla, singamshandi shinga, siyabonga, sikom. Thank you, comrade.
Thank you very much, Comrade Gwisai, for that powerful presentation of our overview and objectives. If you are just joining us now, this is the People's Summit on Constitutional Amendment Bill, and we've just heard our first speaker, Comrade Mnyaradzi Gwisai, outlining, the overview and objective and purposefulness of the summit. It is critical that Comrade Gwisai has also mentioned that, the power of each and every constitution does not lie in its text, but it is in the willingness of its people to defend it, engage with it, and hold institutions accountable to the principles of the very same constitution. Thank you very much, Comrade Gwisai, and to everyone that is following us live via our YouTube stream channel. Kindly engage with us in the comment section. Tell us what you think about the constitutional amendment bill processes and that have taken place, across the country, from public consultations up until the debate in Parliament. Is the bill reflective of the people's views and so forth? And with that being said, allow me to, transition to our first speaker. To our next speaker of the day. I learned that Comrade Mapepa from Choose is yet to confirm. So we will move on to Comrade Mave from Zimoko. Comrade Mave will be joining us shortly. As we wait for him to appear, I think he's joining in a few minutes. I'm learning from my screen here. As we wait for him to join, it is critical to note that fragmentation has been, the major setback of a collective and unified opposition voice that could have confronted the amendment bill with decisiveness. So it is critical to, organize around that, and, as we wait for Comrade Mave to give us a progress report and unpack what they've been doing as Zimoko, as the Como to fight Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. We will be taking comments in our chat box and so forth. Thank you very much. Comrade Mave. I think Comrade Mave is dropped. He's highlighting in the comment section that he has dropped. But besides, the People's Summit is here to gather the collective views of the people around Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. Do people still seek to elect a president through a parliamentary model? If so, as has been the case with other African states, is it what the majority of Zimbabweans want? If the processes have been fair, why is it that the ruling elite is avoiding a referendum where people can explicitly express their views or vote for or vote against this Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, but the government has rather instead, substituted that right to the parliament, which people have highlighted that the parliament in its current state cannot decide for the affairs of, the general Zimbabwean who is struggling to, secure transport fees from work to home, who is struggling to, send their children to school and so forth. So this parliament has been, highly been, rejected by the people. It's not reflective of the people's views. Yes, we gather today as the People Summit. I learned that Comrade Mave is trying to join us as our next speaker as we transition. Comrade Liam, hi, can you hear me, Comrade Liam?
Yes, Comrade Kigen, I can hear you. Sorry, my network had dropped, so I had to move to a place with better signal.
No, thank you.
But above and beyond, I think Comrade Nya has done very well in terms of setting up the conversation and also opening the summit.
All right. So from our speakers, we have Comrade Mapepa is not confirmed from Atus. Comrade Mave from Zikomo has dropped as well. I think he's facing some network challenges. Can we try to get a representative from the CDF and DCP if they are reachable? ZCTU is ready. All right. Okay. Okay, while the technical team is working on getting our next speaker on board, I mean, if I may browse through the comment section here. Thank you, Comrade Frank. There is a comment from Frank which says, articulate, Sevai, Comrade Gusai. Thank you. We acknowledge you. The presence of Darlington Matola is also commenting live on our live stream. We see Moyo Slenkosi, boldly saying no to 2030 there. I see you, Comrade Tsitsi, Aluta Continua. Thank you very much, Comrade Sakos Chuma, no to 2030. I mean, if these are, reflections from the people, which I believe, across the country, this is the voice that citizens have been trying to speak with. Why is, Parliament not willing to listen to this voice? What are the solutions? What needs to happen onwards? Herbert Muchinirepi says, let's unite and fight, which is a critical contribution there. I see you, Sony. Action is really needed. That's the comment from Sony. Josiah Maisiri says no to CAB3. Stanley Mutare says teachers are dismissed unfairly, brutalized and intimidated. Salaries eroded, teacher and civil service dignity downgraded. We need change, citizens, which is what all citizens have been saying, that we definitely need, a democratic breakthrough. We need change as the people of Zimbabwe, and hence the purpose of this People Summit. If you're just joining us, we are articulating and interrogating Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, which is in Parliament. Technical team, we should be getting ready now to bring a speaker, a representative from the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, from the ZCTU. I see they are struggling to join here. I'm hoping that in a few minutes they will be here to say their views. But I'll keep on reading your comments. Please do comment on our live stream if you're following us. Thank you very much. We have Comrade Ngabuto from Mapena, the General Secretary of the Zimbabwe Communist Party, who is going to take us through the political economy of CAB3, its implications, context to the Zimbabwean economy. Comrade Mapena, greetings.
Revolutionary greetings, Comrade Mate, and greetings to all comrades that have joined this discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are pleased to have you at the People's Summit on Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, so that you give us an expert input of its implications on the political economy of Zimbabwe and so forth. The mic is yours, Comrade Mapena.
Thank you so much, Comrade. I will speak briefly on 3 issues, as you have said, the political economy, then speak briefly about people's power. That will be what is to be done given the situation we find ourselves in, and of course touch on internationalism just briefly. So I think in 10 minutes I will have concluded my presentation. Firstly, comrades, we all know and understand that CAB3 has got nothing to do with the developmental agenda in Zimbabwe. It has everything to do with the consolidation of power and to continue to exploit our resources in Zimbabwe. It is a cabal around President Emmerson Mnangagwa. Yes, we might see Emmerson Mnangagwa as a person, but yes, he's been surrounded by what we now call Zwigananda, that is afraid that if Mnangagwa loses power, or if he passes the button stick, as it were, they will not be able to get state contracts to continue with their looting, which is ongoing. So this has got nothing to benefit the people of Zimbabwe. Since 2017, there's nothing tangible on the economic front that has been achieved by Emmerson Mnangagwa and his cabal. What, of course, we have seen is that he has been able to destroy, as it were, the Zezuru hegemony and built a Karanga hegemony. And when we talk of a Karanga hegemony, we are not talking of the mass of the people who are of Karanga origin. We are talking of the elite within the Karanga hegemony that is now benefiting. So it has got nothing to do with advancing the developmental agenda in Zimbabwe, building infrastructure, organizing production. It has got nothing to resolve our banking crisis, the currency question. It has got nothing to rebuild the manufacturing sector in Zimbabwe. It is all about looting. Looting, of course, working with the international capital in looting our resources. This is why it's said that you will find poor people in ZANU-PF, because we must understand that in ZANU-PF, the rank and file in ZANU-PF, they are drawn from the working class and the rural communities. They are the ones that are forced to support the CAB3 without understanding its political or economic implications, that they are not the beneficiaries. And the Comrade Kwesai did outline well that they are simply then receiving crumbs that flow from the table. The budget that he spoke about is meant to assist them in protecting this loot by the black middle class in Zimbabwe. But the question that we are confronted with, the comrades, is that given all that is happening, what is it that we must do? Lenin asked this question. He said, what is to be done? And we are confronted by this question. And Comrade Kwesai says, CAB3 has become our national question today that all of us as revolutionaries, we must resolve. But of course, comrades, in a revolution, there are no shortcuts. The first thing that we need to understand is that we must build class consciousness. Comrade Kwesai was correct that from the look of things, the people that are against the CAB is not the rank and file in our organizations. It is the leadership, be it in political parties, be it in civil society, progressive and other progressive formations. So it's critical that we build a class consciousness, intensify political education in our communities, intensify political education inside the trade union movements, inside all progressive forces, if we are to build people's power in our community. The second thing that we need to do is to organize at the workplace. We have seen in the last decade that the unions that are active, unions that confront the state, are mainly drawn from the public sector. The industrial unions, farm unions, seem to have taken a backseat. They seem not to be challenging capital as it were. So it's important that we organize at the workplace, we organize in the informal sector, in cross-border and cross-border trade. We know that our economy is now more informal. It is critical that we organize these workers so that we are able to build people's power. But the most critical thing that we are required to do is to build a progressive mass movement. When we talk of a mass movement, we are not talking of liberal movements. We are talking of a political mass movement that is rooted in the mass of the people, that is clear on Pan-Africanism, that is clear on internationalism, that is clear that the struggle we're engaged in is about completing our liberation, that our liberation is not complete. Without completing the liberation of Zimbabwe, and of course, the liberation of Africa, we will continue to have these problems. Kwame Nkrumah was quite correct that post-liberation, we ushered in a neo-colonial state, neo-colonial states across the continent. If you are in South Africa, you will see these demonstrations against the working class, which these demonstrations, if you look from afar, you will think that they are progressive. Far from it. They are simple, used as a tool by the South African capitalist class. So it's critical that we build this unity, build this mass movement that will complete our liberation, place the economy in the hands of the people as a whole. But to achieve this, comrades, it's important that we engage in the battle of ideas. Yes, we will not have access to public state media in Zimbabwe to propagate our views, but we are here. We have social media platforms that we need to utilize so that we win this battle. Because ZANU-PF Zwiganandas are saying that an election in Zimbabwe disrupt the developmental agenda. They've created a political environment that is not conducive for the working class to elect their own leaders. They attack the opposition, they attack the workers, then turn around. When we know that the violence that we have been going through since 1980 is state-sponsored, then they want to argue and say, do away with an election because it does not stabilize our country. Elections are always violent when we, the working class, are on the receiving end of this violence. So it's critical that we build, we engage in the battle of ideas and win the ideological battle. Why are we doing all this, comrades? It's because we want to transition to a socialist economy. We know that it does not mean that all of us that are opposed to CAB3, we share the same ideological orientation. No. We saw this in the movement for democratic change when we went to the National Working People's Assembly in 1999. We thought we understood the struggles of the working class and the peasantry, but this was not the case. We saw how the movement for democratic change was hijacked by liberal forces. And the danger which we must protect ourselves from is that the movement that we seek to build should not be hijacked by liberals, because some who are opposed to CAB3, they are not opposed to CAB3 simply because it undermines the right of the workers and peasantry to elect their representative, and they introduce in the long run a socialist economy, or gain a hegemon over the state, for the workers to gain hegemon over the state. It is not the case. It is because some liberals see that they've been locked out from looting. They then join our ranks in opposing this constitutional amendment, not because they share the same ideological orientation with us, but because they are advancing their own political interests. So it's critical that we must guide against this. As I conclude, Comrade Chair or Facilitator, we need to isolate ZANU-PF from progressive world. You know, when President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela was kidnapped by Trump, we wanted to hold a demonstration at the American embassy in Harare. We were denied by a government that claims that it is pan-African, that it understands clearly international solidarity against the victims of imperialist forces. But they denied us the right to give practical solidarity to President Maduro and his wife by denouncing the actions of Donald Trump. So ZANU-PF, particularly after 2000, it portrayed itself as an anti-imperialist organization. But we know that it is a reactionary former liberation movement. Unfortunately, because ourselves in the opposition, some of us, we are closer to the Western capitals, then our international friends get confused. And the ZANU-PF, and in fact, particularly Mugabe, mastered this. He was able to outclass all of us. So it's critical that we isolate ZANU-PF internationally from the international progressive forces. That you cannot claim to be pan-Africanist when you are destroying people's homes. You cannot claim to be pan-Africanist and revolutionary when you continue to commit crimes against the working class and your own people. You cannot claim to be revolutionary when you want to take us back to the internationalist, to the imperialist fold by applying to join the Commonwealth. You cannot claim to be friends of everyone and an enemy of none. When our strike is clear, that we must dismantle neocolonialism, that we must dismantle imperialism. So how do you claim to be friends of everyone and enemy of none when the imperialist forces, as led by NATO, are doing what they are doing in Eastern Europe? When the imperialist forces, led by France, are denouncing the progressive leaders in the Sahel region who are pushing back against imperialist forces in the Sahel region. When those that came to be revolutionary would support the Afrikaners who claim that there's a white genocide directed at them in South Africa, to an extent that Trump then gives them refuge. So this is the reason why, comrades, that when we build a mass movement rooted in the mass of the people, we must be clear on what we want to achieve. We want workers to gain hegemony over the state. We do not want to replace liberals in ZANU-PF with the liberals from the opposition ranks. Thank you so much, comrades. Amandla, red salute.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mapena, for that short and precise yet substance-filled contribution that you've made. And one of the key highlights that you raise is the issue of production being put first amongst all of Zimbabwe's problem. And you're highlighting that we need, to have strong inputs in terms of electrical power, liquid fuel, and agriculture, which is at the core of Zimbabwe's developmental agenda. And within that, nothing in the entirety of Constitution Amendment Bill number 3 speaks to the developmental agenda of Zimbabwe in that regard, in terms of investment in infrastructure. But all it says it seeks to complete projects. These projects remain utopian, and they have not been, beneficial to the general and average Zimbabwean. Thank you very much, Comrade Mapena from the from the Zimbabwe Communist Party. Yes. As we wait for our next speaker to confirm availability, I will also be going through the comment section. And if you are joining us, this is the People's Summit on Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. Co-host, Comrade Takura, how are you?
I'm well, Comrade Mate. How are you? Quite insightful presentation so far from our comrades Mabuto Mapena and comrades Munyakwisai. And I think it's very revealing and telling, especially in the terms of, we always discuss these conversations that liberal democracy itself without class equity is a hollow shell. And this is what creates states that allow reactionary forces to recapture control over institutions of political economy and still reproduce the same contradictions we claim to be fighting. And right now, CAB3, it's of Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, is an instrument of class domination, of class power, of the bourgeoisie class, the native elites, who are using their proximity to the executive and the president to, cement their position. Especially this kind of elites that make money without production. They make money through deals. It's always that they're getting tenders. If it's not a tender, they are the middlemen of negotiating some form of investment deal. You remember in 2017, run up to 2018, the president claimed to have signed mega deals that were worth 17 billion. And that 17 billion did not translate to any material change in terms of transformation of people's lives in Zimbabwe. Our poverty rates still remain high. Our public health system is still in shambles. It's in an embarrassing state. Education itself, a lot of things. Our infrastructure is a cake. But anyway, I'm sure more and more will be expressed by the comrades, and we will chat away towards how we respond to CAB3. I see Comrade Jacob Ngarivume is now in the room. I think we can give him a chance to speak. Comrade Jacob.
Greetings, and friends. How are you doing?
We're fine, Comrade Ngarivume. How are you? Hi, Comrade Ngarivume. Comrade Vimbai, Comrade Ngarivume, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So I'm saying, am I expected to speak now?
Yes, yes. You go first, and then Comrade Vimbai will follow after you. You can also turn on your. You can also turn on your screen, your camera. You may have muted your mic mistakenly. Please unmute your mic, Comrade Ngaruvume, and turn on your camera. Comrade Vimbai, are you around? Comrade Vimbai, are you available? I think they are. Yes, yes. I Comrade Vimbai. Oops. Comrade Vimbai, can you hear me? Am I audible? Perfect. Thank you very much for joining the People's Summit today. As we've been interrogating Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, and we are glad to have you as a speaker on behalf of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions. To unpack and give us a report of how the trade union has been. The Congress of Trade Unions has been, mobilizing the working class, the labor movements, as a front of resistance against Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. And if you are following us on our YouTube channel, please do leave a comment and share what you think about Constitution Amendment number 3. Thank you, Comrade Mbai. Comrade Vimbai, I think you may not be audible enough. I'm not so sure if it's the network or it's the earphones that you've plugged. Confirm if you can hear me. I'm seeing a lot of comments are saying you are not very much audible. Confirm if you can hear me. You may kindly unmute your mic, Comrade Vimbai. Yes, you may unmute your mic. I think you're not audible enough for the listeners. Hopefully she hasn't dropped. I'm thinking she's facing a network challenge there. Let's see if she's still online. She's having intermittent communication. Let our technical
Hello.
team handle that. But glad you are back. Can you hear me now, Comrade Mbai?
I can hear you, but can you hear me?
Yeah, if you can hear me, then I think we can proceed. You can proceed.
Okay, so I was just saying that from ZCTU, and I believe also as a leading organization, the leading voice of workers in Zimbabwe, our statement is just simple and clear that beginning of this year, we undertook consultations on a social contract process, which was taking place at the TNF. And one of the key outcomes from that consultation process was actually a rejection of the CAB3, which means that the workers did not need any motivation, neither did we need any extra resources to try and get the workers' consent, but that the workers themselves brought up the issue of CAB3, which was then tabled before the General Council with no objection, and it was accepted as a workers' issue. And after that, there is a mandate to continue advocacy against it for the reasons that have been stated by the other speakers here, over and above the fact that it's actually holding back the country's developmental processes. So ZCTU has made its submission to Parliament. It has also communicated to all the relevant officers this situation and this position of the workers. Therefore, we would encourage that anyone who is going to stand with the workers, or we will also stand with anyone who is a developmental and progressive voice that will want to represent the voice of the people. We are not doing this with any motivation. If we do get any support or any augmented support to actually amplify this position of the workers, that will be more than welcome. But I think for purposes of the People's Summit is to make clear that the workers of Zimbabwe rejected in their entirety, and including the informal economy workers that took part in our consultation process for the social contract. So it is very clear that Zimbabweans, as we went through doing this consultation, that Zimbabweans were very clear that this is not anything to do with the progressive development that we need, and that this is happening at a time when the democratic spaces had been closed and there had been manipulation of the legal frameworks to ensure that all civic society gets weaker and is fragmented. But even in that fragmentation, the civic society and the workers were able to find their voices and stand up. So in my view, I do not see these as being opposing voices to CAB3, but to saying that these are the representative voices of the people of Zimbabwe and are standing up to the sneaking in of a system that tries to hold back development in the country. So we are very grateful for this platform and for any other forces that are going to continue standing up to ensure that the correct voice of the people of Zimbabwe is heard.
Well, thank you, Comrade Vimbai. Thank you, Comrade Vimbai. I see we were struggling to get any sound from you, but I think from the contributions and points where you were most audible, you made powerful contributions, which is a good contribution that ZCTU has been at the forefront of organizing such scientific resistance against a bill that is so unpopular that it needs to be complemented by repression, arrests, and a lot of violations which are arbitrary and inhuman to our dignity. Thank you very much, Comrade Vimbai. That was the submission on the report and progress that the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions has made thus far. And if you're just joining us live, please do comment and follow our YouTube channel as the People's Summit here discussing the implications of Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, to say that now that we have seen this bill pass through Parliament in terms of debates and first and second readings, what is the future like, given that this bill will succeed, if it succeeds rather, or if it fails to succeed? What are our thematic areas of organizing and, on mobilizing around those issues? And I see people are dropping comments here, and one is saying here's to mass action, but only after, which is a critical contribution of our state of preparedness as it is supposed to be. Someone is saying, let's amplify together, united we stand forevermore. Someone is saying, Comrade Vimbai. Okay, we're done from Comrade Vimbai, which is, a lot of energy that is being shown in the comment section. Comrade Takura, co-host, how are you?
Yes, Comrade Kiken, I'm here. It's only that the network sometimes fights us, but I'm here. Great submissions from Comrade Vimbai, and it's good to hear voices of working class women and the voice also of the only legitimate workers' federation in the country coming to actually aid in the fight against authoritarian consolidation in our country, and to also partake in the fight to remobilize and reorganize the working class in our country. And yeah, for sure, I think the summit is taking shape. The conversations are taking shape, especially like for now, from Comrade Vimbai going to Comrade Mabena and Comrade Munyakusai. I think we are taking a directional shape, which is very grounded in a sort of common understanding of the ideological direction we have to take, the ideological vision itself, the agreement upon grievances. I think, yeah, we are taking shape. Hoping to hear more insights from comrades from the floor. So is the next speaker ready so that we proceed?
Yeah, yes, I'm ready.
Comrade Mapepa, Salvona, kunjani?
Welcome to
Right. Welcome to the summit, and please take the floor and share on Atuz's position and proposed response as we prepare to fight back on CAB3, comrade. Welcome.
Thank you. Salvonan, good morning, everyone. I'm Moyo Tembaguye, the Atuz spokesperson. Fellow Zimbabweans, members of the media, representative of civic society, and above all, the hardworking educators and workers of this nation. I stand before you today not just as a representative of Atuz, but as a voice for the millions of citizens who have been gagged, intimidated, and silenced over the past several months. We are gathered here at this People's Summit because the platform that was supposed to hear us, the CAB3 public hearings, was burnt to the ground by violence and partisanship. While the regime in parliament rushes to push through CAB3 using whips and past crowds, we are here to do the serious work defending our supreme law. The shame process, which is currently happening in our parliament. Let us be clear. ATUS withdrew from the official CAB3 consultation process because it was a shame. What we witnessed was not democracy. It was a theater of coercion. We saw citizens being passed into manufacture. We saw citizens being passed in to manufacture consent. We saw ruling party militias turning public forums into violent rallies. We saw some brutal assault of legal minds, like Doug Coltart, simply for asking questions. And we saw the police issuing threats and warning citizens that if they speak against this haste, they will face the full wrath of law. This is not the Zimbabwe our constitution promised us in 2013. This is the return to the era of decrees and fear. Colleagues, what is at stake? Why are we fighting? We are fighting because CAB3 is not a technical adjustment, it is a constitutional haste. Let us look at the fine points that they don't want us to read. Number one, the extension of the tenure. The bill seeks to extend the presidential term from the 5 to 7 years. It is designed to keep the incumbent Mnangagwa in power beyond his constitutional mandate and deep into 2030 and or even beyond. What can stop him to extend his tenure if he is allowed today? Number two, the end of secret ballot. They want to remove the presidential vote from the privacy of the polling booth and hand it to MPs. And we need to be clear here when we talk of the MPs that will be in parliament. It will be his family and the concubines. The buying of loyalty, that's number three. We are watching as public funds, 31 million by some accounts, are used to buy legislators with trinkets, farms, and mines to secure their votes. They are turning our parliament into a marketplace. Mkambo civil. As a union, what has ATUS done? During the public hearings, we collected letters not only from our members, but from communities that we live in and submitted them to Parliament. We also conducted civic education on Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. The People's Summit versus the parliamentary farce. This is why this summit is vital. Why the silent dissent in Harare, we are amplifying it here. The ruling party expects us to be afraid. They expect teachers who are the backbone of this nation to stay silent in our rural schools. They expect the opposition to remain divided by puppet figures like Sengezo Chabang. But we are here today to tell them, you cannot buy the soul of a teacher, and you cannot intimidate the voice of the people. The proposed call of action. What must we do now? First, we demand a referendum. Any change to the fundamental law of Zimbabwe, especially regarding term limits, must be by you, the voter, at a referendum, not by a rubber stamp parliament. Second, we declare that no land is worth selling your conscience. To the MPs listening, and those listening must also tell their colleagues, reject the man, reject the farms. Vote no to Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. History will judge those who sold their country for 30 pieces of silver. The Judas will be judged. Third, peaceful defiance. They have warned us against protest, but we will use our constitutional right to speak. We'll use our unions. We'll use our churches. We'll use every space that allows us to meet and speak. We'll use this People's Summit as the headquarters of our resistance. And in conclusion, fellow Zimbabweans, comrades, the road is difficult. The people have vowed to crack down. The state has vowed to push this through. But I want you to look at the person next to you. That teacher in the rural area, that vendor in the city, that lawyer fighting for justice. Any other person close to you, that is the Zimbabwe. And will not let a piece of legislation signed in bad faith destroy democracy we played for. Indeed, they have guns, the money, and the state machinery. But we have the truth and we have numbers. Let me categorically state that here and now, that ATU's membership is ready to participate in any program agreed to by the collective, of which I know everyone is ready. No to the Constitutional Amendment Bill 3. Yes to the People's Constitution. Phambili ngenkululeko, forward with freedom. Engakutsho asiphumeni ijumo bakwethu, hathi ijumo nje kuphela, kodwa umkhaso nje mthakathi and defend our constitution. Ngiyabonga. Thank you. Tatenda Twalumba.
Well, bold presentation there from the spokesperson of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, Comrade Mapepa. You have highlighted key points in terms of the work that the teachers of Zimbabwe under the banner of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union has been doing so far in confronting the issue of Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. I mean, you've also put it clear that this government has been for so much time being focused on the size of government, which merely translated to, being jobs for the boys and did not speak too much into the economic reality of Zimbabwe. How have we failed 46 years after independence to invest in basic healthcare, in basic education, in basic services and social amenities as a government? Yet we believe that in two terms, I mean, in 2 years of term extensions, one can probably deliver what he has failed to deliver in the past 7 years or so, which doesn't make sense for the ordinary Zimbabwean, because the ordinary Zimbabwean, is thinking, how can you go to bed, with a stomach that is satisfied? How can he be at work and know that the remuneration for labor, for my labor, is valued at a economically fairly and reasonably reward? So those are the questions that have been, coming around the Constitutional Amendment Bill, and the teachers have been at the forefront of rejecting this bill, and it is a good initiative that you've withdrawn from the shambled processes. As I run through the comment section, I see someone says they really turned the parliament into a marketplace, primarily benefiting the involved parties rather than serving the nation's best interests, which is true, as has been witnessed in the current situation in the Zimbabwean atmosphere and the environment that has been brought forward amidst this attempt to butcher the constitution. One of the commenters says, we need our secret ballot on point, comrade. We need to vote for our leaders. Thumbs up is giving a shout out to Comrade Themba Mapepa of R2s. But there's a critical question, that came along the constitution. More so, I should raise it more so because our next speaker is Dr. Sipho Malunga, who's going to speak onto democracy and the future of Zimbabwe. Particularly within amidst this amendment bill. And one of the comment says that it's from Prosper Ncube from Matebelele North Province. He says, my fear is entering a referendum fragmented, disengaged and divided because a disorganized public really determines outcomes. It's quite a good contribution there to say how are we going to win this referendum if we're fragmented? Then another commenter says, will the referendum solve this? Who will be in charge of the process? The general citizens of Zimbabwe are so questioning this whole thing. But before we transition to Dr. Sipho Malunga, let me give Comrade Marvelous a brief moment to make his contributions before we take Dr. Sipho Malunga. Comrade Marvelous, how are you?
Yes, comrade, how are you? Hello, comrade.
Yes, comrade. Am I audible to your side? You may proceed if I am.
Yes, you are, my brother.
Perfect.
Okay. So, thank you so much, colleagues, for inviting us to such an important occasion where we seek to define the trajectory through which our country will head post the CAB3 phase. We are happy that as a civic platform, we're complementing other ongoing civic and political efforts. We cannot do this task on our own. We cannot continue working in silos, but working with others in achieving what the people or the Zimbabweans want. So as the Zimbabwe Constitutional Movement, in short, ZICOMO, this is a purely civil society initiative aimed at defending the Constitution and promoting constitutionalism. We rejected CAB3 in its totality from the word go because we felt it is primarily put in place to reverse the gains of our independence as a country. So we are working with the other CSOs, residents associations, youth, students, women, the labor movement, the church, and progressive political parties. We have also an advantage that we have solidarity networks within the SADC region, in Africa and globally, to support the people of Zimbabwe. And in this initiative, we are working hand in glove with the Southern Africa Democracy and the Southern Africa Coalition on Democracy and the Accountability sector, which is based in Johannesburg. Our drive is centered around that the people want the implementation of the 2013 Constitution especially from where I come from, the residents' movement. They want the actualization of Chapter 14 of the Constitution on the devolution of governmental powers and the responsibilities. But unfortunately, ED, ZANU-PF, and the Ziganandas are giving us the CAB3 instead of the full implementation of the 2013 Constitution. In terms of what we have been doing or what we have done as ZICOMO, we have been engaging CSOs and like-minded organizations on CAB3 and how best to stop this draconian bill. We have also engaged the Speaker of Parliament, Advocate Jacob Mudenda, though the engagement did not bear fruits for us. We acknowledge that he is the ZANU-PF Secretary General, and he also stands to benefit from CAB3. So in that, that puts him in a very compromised position to deliver his mandate as the Speaker
Powerful, yes.
As the Speaker of Parliament. He is very much compromised. So working
Yes,
with the Southern...
in a minute, you have a minute, Comrade Komalu. You have a minute to,
I'm winding
land.
up. I'm winding up. So in working with the Southern African Coalition on Democracy and Accountability, we engaged the Republic of South Africa President, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, on the developments in Zimbabwe. We wrote him a letter before he visited Zimbabwe. And we are confident that as part of his engagement with the ED and the Ziganandas, hopefully he raised some of the issues that we had raised to him as issues of concern. We also wrote to Parliament rejecting CAB3 and demanding for a referendum. And we hope the Clerk of Parliament and the members of Parliament will do diligence to our demands and respect the provisions of Section 328 of the Constitution and lead the Zimbabweans to a referendum. In short, this is what we have been doing, comrades, and this is what we have done as the ZICOMO. But we are willing and we stand available to work with other progressive organizations. And what we want from our end is not to lead, but to be led in terms of making sure that the aspirations of Zimbabweans are put first. Thank you. I'm done, colleague.
Well, powerful contributions. Yes. That was Comrade Marvelous right there, speaking deeply into the work that civil society organizations need to do, have been doing, and how they must be doing. I see Dr. Gomo has just joined us. Is Dr. Gomo still in?
Yes, I am in. Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome, Dr.
How
Gomo.
are you?
We are pleased to have... Morning. We're fine, Dr. Gomo. We're pleased to have you in the People's Summit today as you come on to unpack our progress and a report giving of such. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. I hope you can hear me audibly. I've been having a challenge with my gadget, but I'm coming from the faith-based organizations, and I'm pleased to be part of this great summit. Thank you for organizing such at a time such as this. Coming from the church, I just need to bring out what we stand for as the church in Zimbabwe today and the way forward that we propose, working together with the progressive forces against this immoral, unjust, and unconstitutional move that we see happening or unfolding in our time. The church's prophetic voice on this unconstitutional and immoral provision is very clear. We are anchored on Amos 5, verse 24, which just says, "Let justice roll on like a river, and righteousness like a never failing stream." So we gather here not as a political party, but as custodians of the truth. And we know that Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 is to go through fundamentally two things. Number one, it has to go through the constitutionality of the process, and number two, the justice agenda of God, of which it is failing on those two fronts. So when we saw what was gazetted in February of 2026, that amendment that was sought to amend the 2013 People's Constitution, we really looked at their purpose, which was alignment and efficiency, and we brought those into light of justice and constitutionality, and they are falling short. So, as the presidency is touched, parliament and judiciary, and also the elections, and also the devolution that we thought by now we should be seeing, we then looked at the process and how flawed it was as a church. And also our greatest concern with all this is taking away of a one person, one vote, which actually birthed this nation. And as we are looking at our church is saying, the church is saying, if you remove accountability and power stops flowing from the people, we have actually given necessity for a few elites to capture to capture the entire church. We have looked as the church at the justification of the 7-year term in the midst of a 5-year term, and we are looking at how a system can change to benefit itself, especially when we are looking at the word. I think Comrade Guisai and the other lawyers here have touched on that, and especially with the plain English, notwithstanding, which becomes a clear wording that is in our Constitution. So as we are looking at this, it is very imperative that the church has a clear voice. Our greatest concern has been the immoral danger of what we have seen, of the rise of the patriotic but corrupt church. This is very clear when you have churches for ED and that just endorse and support what is being said and what is being done without the litmus test of the two things we talked about: the justice of God and the constitutionality of the process. So every amendment, like I've said, must pass two tests: God's justice and the Constitution that the people gave themselves in 2013, with a 94.5% yes. Now we will look at that CAB3, which has removed the direct election of the president in section 88, subsection 1, and it giving so much authority to the executive, something that we need to be very careful of. And the immoral danger that I've just alluded to, and why it is immoral to have a concentration of power bred amongst or in the midst of a very few people. So devolution has been weakened, and a few houses actually have a say, the leaked audio and whatever that has to be done. So as the church, we are getting in with a prophetic action. Number one, our prophetic action is very clear. We are going to continue aligning ourselves with progressive forces, labor. We appreciate what you have done, and we are fully working with you and every other platform that really wants to work towards mobilizing people, teaching people against this unjust process. The church is very clear about its position. The next thing that we really want as churches, we've started having conversations on explaining these technical processes to our people for them to really get in and understand that it is their civic duty to resist injustice, and that it is unpatriotic to be a church in the state house, but a church that is in the state house but fails to reach the soul of the leaders it is in the state house. We are standing with those who really are calling for justice to prevail. And I'm happy that we've had this summit to really clear our position that we are with those who are on the God's justice agenda, and we are not going to be moved from that. So our rebuke is very clear. Patriotism without integrity is actually idolatry, and this is what we've seen in Zimbabwe. We love every Zimbabwean, but we love people that are progressive, that are going to call the truth of God for it to really prevail. The last thing that the church will want to do is the call to unity. Look at Nehemiah 2:18, which let us rise up and build. The church is here to help whoever wants to build to build. Unity is not uniformity. This is very clear from the church. We don't all have to vote the same, but we must agree on 3 non-negotiables. The Constitution is supreme. Human dignity is sacred. Corruption must be rejected. These 3 we should be non-negotiable when we approach this. So to the churches, civic societies, the academia here, business, traditional leaders, students, let us have our mind to work, not party first, but Zimbabwe and our constitution above all. So my closing charge is that we'll continue to teach civic discipleship in every opportunity that we have. And we are going to engage those who are willing to listen, and we are going to build and join an interfaith platform for broader dialogue. So this is the presentation from the church. It is very clear. This process has failed. The justice agenda of God and the constitutionality process, this CAB3 has fallen short. But I want to give a charge before I leave this platform. We looked at CAB2, and most people thought it was just an internal dynamic. Oh, it is Chiwenga being weakened. And CAB2 created the platform for CAB3. And we need to be very clear with our people. If they allow this to perpetuate and to take root, we are going to have a lot of constitutional amendments that are going to isolate or alienate our people from their constitution that they voted for overwhelmingly in 2013. So let us really put that message out. This is our opportunity to stand up against injustice. This is our opportunity to find each other regardless of the differences that we have had in the past. Any genuine and Zimbabwean that is looking forward to a better country for our posterity, this is an opportunity to come together, bury our differences, and really push back the injustice we are witnessing in our time. Thank you.
Wow, that is a bold submission from a faith-based organization there by Dr. Gomo. Thank you very much, Dr. Gomo. We have with us Dr. Sipho Samimalunga, a seasoned lawyer by training and profession, and he's going to assist us, as we unpack Constitution Amendment Bill number 3 and the future of democracy in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, Comrade Sipho, for joining us today and sparing your time with us.
Thank you very much, Mate. Thank you, colleagues.
Am I audible?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
If I am audible, you may proceed, my comrade.
Yes. As long as you can hear me, I can hear you. It's very difficult to say anything substantive about the Constitution after all these speakers. Everybody has said what's wrong with this bill. We all know it. We don't need to be persuaded by it. It is clear that this was a project which was not a project of the people. Because if it was a project of the people, we would not have seen the kind of things we have seen in trying to steamroll it, through. I watched yesterday the debate in Parliament. I've never seen anything like it. Really shocking. The least they could have done is at least let the debates go. They've already got their numbers, right? They're going to do what they want, but they're not even letting even the dissenting voices, say what they want to say. You can tell that this is a very narrow, elite-driven process, and they will pass it. There's no question about it. We know that, but every dog has its day, right? We know that, and it will be reversed in good time. It will be reversed. I'm not so worried about the future of the country. I'm worried about the immediate, but I'm less worried about the future because it will be reversed. Things will shift. Things will change. So, in terms of the amendment itself, there's so much that has been said, so much that has been written, including today by the speakers. So I'm not going to add to that. I'm a lawyer myself, and I've said so many things about it as well, about the different provisions of it. But what I want to talk about today is, where does this thing leave us? Where does this CAB3 leave us? I have expressed my concern in so many ways about the personalization of this entire process. This process is about extending the term of presidency of the current president, E.D. Mnangagwa. I would ordinarily have no problem if indeed all of Zimbabwe was saying, we want the extension of the president's term, we want him to stay, we like him, we love him, we think he's doing a great job. If that was the case, why not? But the Constitution is clear about how you do that. And they haven't done any of that because they know that it is not true. It is not even about that. It is not an overwhelming sense of appreciation and of accomplishment of the current president, who himself has said he does at some point he will never extend his term. We know that this is a project around the life presidency of President Mnangagwa. I know that many people, including the people who are championing this, might think, he will stay a little bit, and then, the parliament will elect his successor. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry to say this. And there are many reasons why I'm compelled to believe this, because the fundamental point is that, you see, current President Mnangagwa was in President Mugabe's cabinet for almost 40 years. There's absolutely no way he's going to leave power. He won't, because Mugabe stayed. And Mugabe left only because he was removed. The difference is simply that now, obviously, Mnangagwa is much smarter, much cleverer, much more astute, and has been able to engineer a different way of ensuring that he stays on. If the other comrades, they're not my comrades, but the comrades inside the initiative to extend think that they're going to take over from Mnangagwa, I think they're sadly mistaken. It's not going to happen. I believe that we still do have an opportunity in the country, and I've written this so many times about how we need to fix our broken politics. And I think Mnangagwa can fix the broken politics if he really put his mind to it before he leaves, because at his age, it is clear. I mean, I said the other day on Twitter that I buried my mother at 83 years old. President Mnangagwa is 87. And the sad part of it is that, we lose our parents at a certain age. At some point in time, we lose him to natural causes, of course. And this is the best time for him to set the country on a completely different path. because the path that we are on now is going to be problematic for the future. But where does that leave Zimbabwe now? In the very short term, constitutional amendment bill, I don't know if you can still see me. I see I'm no longer showing.
Yeah, you can turn on your camera, Comrade Sipo.
Oh, did I turn off my camera? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I think it must be
I can see you now.
Okay. So I'm saying, even
I think we've dropped Comrade Sipo. I think he's facing network challenges. I mean, he had just described how much democratic transition within ZANU-PF itself has been. I mean, since independence, to say that former President Robert Mugabe has never, witnessed a democratic, election post-independence in Zimbabwe. So those that expect Mnangagwa, who has been in Robert Mugabe's government or cabinet for the past years to surrender power willingly, are not true to themselves. Welcome back, Comrade Sipo. I see you dropped.
Yes, I don't know what happened. I think I lost you there. So I've actually connected you on my phone now. Okay, I'm back. Let me see if this works. Can you hear me and can you see me? Okay. There's something wrong with my connection, but I hope you can hear me and see me.
Okay, can you hear me and see me? There's something wrong with my connection. I hope you can hear me and see me. Okay, I shall continue. I'm assuming you can hear me. I'm not hearing anything back. So I was saying that, in my opinion, President Mnangagwa had a greater chance than President Mugabe, because, I mean, if you look at 2017 and how it unraveled, the ability to marshal support from, one, the international community, two, broader civil society, because a lot of people in civil society were actually in support of this new project, this new dispensation, the Second Republic, who had for years been resisting it. The tragedy of it is that CAB3 has actually eroded all that capital, and for a while it will derail the democratic aspirations of Zimbabweans, because for a long time, what people have always cried and complained about has been the fact that they are unable to influence any political outcomes in a meaningful way We've had a virtually one-party state, which relies solely on its control of the army. I argued at one point, borrowed this phrase from Professor Sabelo Kacheni, that we had a party which had an army at one point, and then we had an army which had a party, which was the military after it took over in 2017. But obviously that wasn't tenable, and now we actually have the erosion of the military from the party and its replacement by a small elite, a small moneyed elite, which of course has access to resources and money by virtue of its access to the state resources and the economy and the tenders and everything. So now that has replaced the military as the owner of the party. And I don't think that in its entire history, ZANU-PF has ever been captured to this particular extent. And I don't think in our entire history since independence, the state of Zimbabwe has ever been captured to this particular extent. So this is what the public and the citizens of Zimbabwe are now up against. And looking into the future, people must understand what they are now against, what they are now dealing with. They're no longer dealing with a party, a one-party ZANU-PF one-party state, which was a different thing because it had a different form, it had a different character, and it had different ways of organizing and mobilizing and retaining and maintaining power. What we now have is a small elite. I call it an oligarchic elite, similar to what Putin used when he went into power in Russia in the 90s, in 1990. A small elite which has a high concentration of resources and money, which has accessed this money from the state resources, our money. It's our money. It's not their money, by the way. And they're using this money now as a primary instrument of control of everything in the state, from political power to economic power to coercion to so the instrument of the army and the police as the primary instrument of keeping everybody in check has lost its currency. Sorry to use the word. What has actually replaced it is money. It's money for everybody, money for artists, money for influencers, money for social media, money for this, money for that. And this money is cars, money, cash, all these things, tenders, mines, farms. And they're not sleeping, thinking of ways in which to make more money, including making policies that appear like public policies in the interest of the public, but are really aimed at privatizing the proceeds of those policies. So whether it is deeds, title deeds, whether it is giving title deeds to farmers, to citizens that have been given land, now you're going to have a couple of banks that are going to be giving those title deeds. And then people are going to be paying mortgages to those banks. On what basis are these two big banks the ones collecting mortgages? And they're going to make billions of dollars from it. So what I'm trying to say is that what you will see, we're likely to see after the passage of this, is an intensification of this, an intensification of the implementation of policies that are aimed at completely capturing the economy and the state even more. But a frenzy of continuously making more and more money and running through all these programs, all these new tenders. And it's not going to be what it was before. Like, this is the government we're dealing with. We're dealing with the government in terms of pushing for change, pushing for healthcare. How do you push for government for healthcare if the sole supplier of ambulances, of health equipment, is somebody who is part of this group? How do you hold government accountable without holding the person who's literally getting all these tenders and using the money and buying mansions and Brabus cars and Bentleys and all this? So we have to understand that the focus of the fight is going to shift fundamentally. It's not going to be the state of Zimbabwe, the government of Zimbabwe, the Department of Health, the Ministry of Health. It's going to be individuals that have captured individual institutions as a means to extract from them going forward. And these individuals are all the people that are around this CAB3. But it has happened before in many different countries. So it's not the first country this has happened to, and it's not going to be the last. And it's not going to be the fact, it's not going to be that it can't be undone. But in the short term, you can expect a frenzy of beneficiation from this process. This is what's going to happen. And it means that, therefore, the public response and what you will then have is not better services to the people, not better policies for the people, but they're going to get worse because now very emboldened without any accountability, because what CAB3 is going to do is to remove complete accountability to citizens. Complete accountability, complete answerability, complete responsibility to citizens is going to be removed, because now they don't have to come back to you every few years to get your mandate. All right, they just have to go to these 250, 300 people in parliament and give them 20,000 or 10,000 or 5,000, whatever it is, because money goes very fast. So whatever they've been given now is going to be finished in no time. But they're going to stay there. They're just going to be there waiting in line for the next bit if they get it. But at some point in time, of course, there will be fallouts. There will be competition even to succeed President Mnangagwa. Even in that particular scenario, we've seen it. We've seen how they've sometimes insulted each other, and then they come back and say, no, we are all together, we are brothers, we are this, we are this. But you can see that competition is not going to go away. It will continue. Now, but for citizens of Zimbabwe and the people of Zimbabwe, they're going to have to understand something fundamentally important, which is that without unity of purpose, without a coalition of actors to push back, to organize, to mobilize, and it did not be something that happens in a day. Nothing happens in a day. CAB3 will probably pass, but Zimbabweans are going to have to rethink how they confront this new monster. And it's going to be a new way of confronting it. The old politics of opposition, CCC, this and that, I can tell you that that's gone, that's over. It's not going to serve Zimbabwe now. It's a completely new era that we're dealing with in the country right now. It's a new era, new actors. That's going to need a completely different approach. Remember also something fundamental, that the majority of the population in Zimbabwe is under 19 years old. They don't give a damn about the liberation struggle. Many of them have never worked a day in their lives. They're staying with their parents. They are unemployed. They've got no businesses. Yes, they might follow social media and look at the Mbingas and their children tweeting about their cars and the helicopters, but they still remain unemployed. They still remain resentful and angry and frustrated. At some point in time, that anger has to be ventilated. And the question fundamentally is going to be the new leaders in Zimbabwe pushing for shift and change, and more accountable governance systems are going to have to be able to speak to these young people. They're going to be able to have to mobilize these young people, who some of them are enamored in the Mbinga culture, but a lot of them are very angry and very, very, very resentful of what's going on. At the end of the day, and in closing, I still hope, I still remain positive, because I believe that there's always good that's possible. And I've called in many instances, even speaking to the ruling elite, I've said Zimbabwe needs to fix its broken politics. And CAB3 is evidence of the brokenness of the politics of Zimbabwe. There's still a chance to fix it. Maybe perhaps, and I still say it, and I call on our comrades that are right now triumphant in this CAB3, because they're going to get it through. There's no question about it. I call on them to realize that every dog has his day, and this may be the moment in which they might pause and decide. They could pause and decide that this is the moment for a more inclusive conversation about the future of the country, because there will come a time when they might find themselves on the run. They might find themselves on the run, because that moment you may not know, but certainly when you do something like CAB3, when you steal a constitution, when you have a coup, there has to be a blowback, and it will come. It may not come today, it may not come next year, but it will come. So, but this is the time when they may be able to push and engage and negotiate a more inclusive political settlement for the future of Zimbabwe, and that may guarantee and save them from the future that's coming to them. Thank you so much.
Dr. Sipho, you've raised pertinent questions there. You know, he has incited us to think, you know, in the future of what happens provided this bill passes. How do we reinvent ourselves and reimagine, you know, a collective voice, learning from obviously the past mistakes, and how do we consolidate the gains of, you know, of everything that we've channeled into resisting the Constitution Amendment Bill. And he has spoken a lot, much more into how democracy has been under threat, you know, globally. It's not a phenomena that is peculiar to Zimbabwe alone. It's seen across the globe and across the region, where, you know, there is a democratic backsliding, you know, and people now present themselves as Democrats, yet actually on ground they act to the contrary. Thank you very much, Dr. Sipho Malunga, for that. I see we have Tafatswa Choto ready there. Comrade Tafatswa Choto, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. I think you might need to unplug your earphones so that you are audible. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Welcome to the People's Summit on Constitution Amendment Bill number 3, a progressive platform that has been, you know, capturing the aspirations of the people and, you know, reinventing the future to say that what should happen post the passing of the bill. Thank you for lending your time with us. The mic is yours, my comrade.
All right. Thanks, comrades, and thanks for organizing this platform that brings together the radicals together and discuss the issue of the CAB3 and the way forward. I'm going to be looking at the CAB3 and the political economy of Zimbabwe. I hope you can hear me. Hello? Can you hear me? Oh gosh, what's happening? Hi, comrade, can you hear me? I'll just continue. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, you then let me know. So I'm going to be talking about the political economy of Zimbabwe and the CAB3. I'll just start by saying what other comrades have highlighted, that the CAB3 is being introduced in the midst of economic crisis globally, not only in Zimbabwe. The capitalist system is in crisis, and we are seeing the rise of the right wing, such as Trump and the capitalist class that is around him, that only wants to benefit. And we've seen the wars that have been implemented, the Russia-Ukraine war, the war on Iran by Trump that has affected globally, the global prices of fuel that has resulted in the increase of prices of basic commodities, the genocide in Palestine, in Sudan, in DRC, and now it's being introduced so that that elite class that is around ED benefits, while the majority are living in poverty. If we look at the amending of the crisis, it was started in 2024 in Bulawayo by ZANU-PF. That time they were talking about amending the constitution and focusing only on ED, that his term should extend up to 2030. It was agreed again in Mutare in 2025. But what we are now seeing with CAB3, it's totally different. It is radically changed. It's now including that whole structure of the elite that is around Mnangagwa, so that they're benefiting. It's now talking about a president to be elected in parliament. It's talking about an executive president. So if we look at the Zimbabwean situation, we see that the capitalist class is the one that is dominating and also benefiting the ones that were called by Chiwenga Shigananda. We've seen that these Shigananda are really benefiting quite a lot. Shigananda started emerging in the last years of Mugabe, and we've seen that they've now expanded and really rooted under ED. So the Shigananda to control the politics. They are seeking to be able to control the state, to be unaccountable, to do what is happening globally. What we see, what Trump is doing in America, that is not accountable to anyone. So looking at the current political economic situation of Zimbabwe, I'm going to look at it at the three areas and why the Shigananda wants to now be in control of the state. We see that when ED got in and Mutuli got in 2018, they then introduced that Zimbabwe is open for business. And that open for business is now benefiting ED and his Shigananda around him. They're benefiting from three areas that I'm going to look at. The first one is the raw materials that the country has got. That's the first one. The second one that I'm going to look at is they're benefiting through the tenders. And lastly, the state and Shigananda have also benefited by putting the crisis on the workers and the working class. So looking at the raw materials, Zimbabwe is rich in raw materials such as gold, platinum, lithium, and we've seen that it is now trading with history. This is because the global crisis, the global economic crisis, the elite has decided not to keep their money in reserve as US dollars, because that way it's unsafe, because anything can happen, it can lose value. They've decided to put their wealth in reserve as gold, and Zimbabwe has got that gold, and the price of gold, as I've said, that it's in history, it has gone up. There's a gold boom. So Zimbabwe is benefiting from that gold as the state, from the proceeds that those who are selling are getting in. And besides the state benefiting, the Shigananda are also benefiting in this trading. We see Winknell going direct to the United Arab Emirates, trading with gold. So they are benefiting from the gold that is in demand right now, and that the country has got. And besides the gold, we've got other resources like platinum, lithium, that they are also benefiting, getting the proceeds from it. And besides the benefiting from the raw materials, we see that the state is also, and its Shigananda, are benefiting from tenders. From the money that is coming, that the state has got from gold, we then see that they've gone into road construction, dam construction, and just a bit of construction of Parenyatwa. And that construction is not being done by money that is coming as loans from the bank, but it's being done by money that is cash. And they are getting those tenders and they are inflating. So the Gananda also wants to remain close and now wants to take control of the state so that they benefit much more. We saw that the roads were constructed, but just a few roads that were put in place, the roads that benefit, especially the elites, and also the dams, they are there so that they pretend that they want to extend, which is one of the things that they are saying that ED wants to go until 2030 so that he can finish those projects. But in the process, they are benefiting. They are not going complete all out in doing those projects. Another one that I've talked about is that of putting the crisis on the workers, having the crisis being affected by the austerity measures that are being put in place. When Mutuli got in, we saw that he introduced the transitional, the austerity one, and that was saying that, yes, things were going to be tough, but things were going to get better. The TSP, it was meant to be temporary. And in that way, workers and the working class were made to pay. We saw that with the coming in of Mutuli ED, we witnessed the reduction of my workers' salaries. In 2008, teachers were getting more than $400, but by about 2021, they're now getting about $60. And the same, not just teachers, but most of the civil servants, workers. And in Moso, they were banking on the reserve army that is there, that there are quite a lot of unemployed teachers can be employed. If we look at the revenue of the government, we see that in 2018, between 90 and 92% of that revenue was going towards salaries. But by 2021, it had reduced to about 35%, and now it's about 52%. So it's putting the workers, making the workers pay for those crises by reducing the salaries. And this was not just on civil servants, but also on private sector workers. And now we see that most of the prices are in US dollars, but workers are getting 50% being paid in ZIG. Yet when you want to buy fuel, you can't buy in ZIG. They demand US dollars. So it's putting the crisis on workers. And besides the issue of reduction of wages, we've also seen how the working class have been made to pay through other issues. We see right now how the prices of things are inflated in Zimbabwe. If we look at the prices of passports, the prices of license, certificate, and so forth, and then also I've mentioned that they are getting tenders through the construction of roads, through the construction of dams and so forth. And this construction is being done in direct, in cash, and it's not being done through getting loans. And then in the process, in return, the money that was supposed to go towards the welfare means, that is towards education. If we look at BEAM, right now BEAM is owed millions of dollars that are not being paid. No money is being put through health, education, and other systems so that the ordinary people benefit. It's being put towards that construction. So it's making the workers pay. So when I look at those three things that I've highlighted, they're actually much more, but I'm highlighted how workers are being made to pay and why workers should say no to CAB3. You have seen that the tenders is the Gananda getting. They're enjoying themselves. In last, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we saw the wedding, how it was a wedding of elite, one getting, giving their children a present of a land that is 33 hectares, and how that wedding millions were put in. So that is what they want now to be benefiting. And I think there's a video circulating. Am I coming out okay?
Yeah, yes, you are.
All right. There's a video circulating of someone who was asking that why should we have elections? It's time Timbojga or CIT and saying the people who were in that room should say. So that is the real thing that ED and Rigananda, the elites around him, they want Kutibambojgao. They want to be enjoying the revenue that the country is getting. If we look at right now, the country is getting a revenue of about 16 billion, which is quite a lot of money, which is much more the countries that are developing, the countries like Kenya are getting. They are getting less than that. So looking at those things, they want to eat, but at the same time, they know that it's too much, the gap between those who have got and those who don't have, that they are creating is becoming too much. So they know that the working class, the workers, they are going to resist against these austerity measures that they've implemented. Because right now, when we look at the country, there's a lot of deindustrialization, there's a high unemployment, there is more poverty. Yes, people can say they can go to diaspora, but right now the borders are closing. South Africa is saying, Zimbabweans, go back to your country. So it's those crises that they know they are faced with. And CAB3 is then meant to close that legal democratic space that is there so that they can increase authoritarianism. We saw that with Mugabe, when he introduced ASAP in the early, before the introduction of ASAP, how he introduced the executive president so that he have that executive president who is not accountable to anyone. That's why they are saying that the president will be chosen in the parliament. They want someone who is accountable. And also how this Gananda will get in. We've already seen in their party, ZANU-PF, how Gananda have been incorporated in the Central Committee and also very soon into the Politburo. So they don't want them to be accountable. So I end by saying that, comrades, it's not just political power, but it's this wealth that is there, that the elite wants to benefit, wants to eat at the expense of the majority of the working class. And that's why we should say no to the CAB3. And that's why we should demand a referendum that should be mobilized from the ground. Right now, I think we should also learn some of the mistakes that we have done and be able to correct. When the hearings were done, the opposition and all these several groups that are there, we did not mobilize enough. We're just issuing statements at the top level, but without mobilization on the ground. But when we look at ZANU-PF, even if we say that they were organizing these people organizing them with chicken in so that they can go and eat, but it was part of organizing, of mobilizing people on the ground. Right now, we have to mobilize, highlighting these economic situations that I've talked about. If we look at the money that is coming from gold, from natural resources, how much of it can go to health sector, to education sector? Right now, we're just given the liku at Parenyatwa. But why should someone from Gweru travel to Parenyatwa for chemo? Why should someone from Tarek travel to Parenyatwa from chemo? We should now demand all those hospitals to be equipped with all necessary chemo, dialysis, all necessary equipment for health issues. Those are the things that we should be going down and mobilizing masses with, and saying that the money is there, and also demanding that if they are not accepting money in ZIG, why should workers be paid in ZIG? Right now we are using US currency, which is a very expensive currency. We should say no to the use of the US currency. Why not even use a rand? The way most of the Zimbabweans are in South Africa, why not use that? So those are the demands, the economic demands that we should go and mobilize the working class with, and put at the forefront and say, these are the economic demands that the Shigananda and ED wants to benefit. So we are saying no to these economic demands, and it is because of these economic demands that they want full control of political power, and we are saying no to full control of political power. We are saying no to the issue of the executive president. Why should an executive president be elected in the parliament by the parliament, but why not by the masses? Well, they're saying that it's an issue. The president of South Africa is elected in parliament. It's because of those compromises that were done in South Africa that an accountable president is elected, so that the apartheid system remains in place. The capitalist system where only the elite are controlling is in place in South Africa, where the elite are benefiting. So that is what is now being, now what they want to bring to Zimbabwe, and we should say no. So I end by saying it's the economic demands that the working class, we are saying no to poverty, that is going to be created by CAB3, that we should now use to mobilize the masses to demand for a referendum. If not demanding for a referendum, if CAB3 passes through, to mobilize on the ground and lead protests to say no to this kind of system. Yes, I hear Comrade Sipo has said CAB3 can come in and it will go out very soon. But when you are looking at CAB3, it's benefiting the elite who come in, even some from the opposition. We've seen how opposition people have sold in, how Chabangu is saying that CAB3 should be in place. So because it will benefit an elite and they want to benefit, it will be a struggle to remove it, and we should say no to CAB3 right now. We should say no to the crisis that have been created by the capitalist system that they want the ordinary people to pay. In conclusion, I say what I've highlighted, the issue of fighting protests against CAB3, the issue of all these economic issues demanding capitalization of hospitals and schools. Comrades, they're only reforms. What we are now seeing globally and in Zimbabwe, the capitalist system is in crisis, and it's now we move towards building for a socialist system that removes only the benefiting of an elite, but the benefiting of the masses, that the resources the country has got are benefiting the masses of the people. So I end by that, and I can take questions or clarifications. Thank you.
Well, that is Tafato Choto, who has, delved deeply into the issue of extraction and primitive accumulative of resources, natural resources, to the benefit of a handful few. That has, brought about this disconnect between the government of Zimbabwe and the people that it seeks to govern. You know, there is this system of command governance where people are given a directive to follow, and this has been the culture of ZANU-PF politics, and it is, you know, escalated to the level that it has become a national threat, and our futures are at risk in terms of the presentation of this Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. Thank you very much, Tafadzwa, for those insightful and, you know, thorough nuggets that you've put before the People's Summit today. And if you're just joining us, this is the People's Summit on Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. I am taking the next speaker who's going to speak more into that regard. I see he's already in. It's Comrade Jacob Ngarivume from Transform Zimbabwe, and he comes to speak as a representative of the Defend the Constitution platform. Comrade Jacob Ngarivume, how are you?
I'm good, my brother. Greetings to everyone on the platform. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very important conference, which is basically an indictment of CAB3 and those who are pushing it. Basically, we call those people the oligarchs. They have been on a path which is very destructive for a long time, whereby they've been pushing a complete capture of the nation of Zimbabwe, you know, and it is up to us as citizens, as the people of Zimbabwe, to stand up and protect and defend our heritage. I will raise a few points. Already a lot has been said by other speakers. I was listening to my brother Sipo, and then of course Comrade Tafadzwa, who is also a colleague. And on this platform, whilst I'm leader of Transform Zimbabwe, I am, as you correctly put it, I'm speaking on behalf of the Defend the Constitution platform, DCP. We have been very clear as DCP and as other organizations that the process that Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 is being implemented is wrong. We have been very clear that there are well set out procedures when you want to change the Constitution or to amend the Constitution. And one of the key sections is section 282, which then requires that such changes go through a referendum, and they are unwilling to do that. They want just to push this bill through hook and crook. We also know of the very flawed consultation process that took place. You know, myself and many other political leaders were at the City Sports Center and we could not speak. They prevented many other people from speaking at the City Sports Center, which is a crooked consultation process. Let me also come to the debate in Parliament. I was glued to the live streaming, and we saw it clearly that they cherry-picked who could debate it and not, particularly giving the opportunity to the people supported by Chabangu, whom we all know, most of us all know that that guy is a sellout. He's captured by the state and by ZANU-PF specifically, and he's doing things for ZANU-PF. So they've at every stage denied an opportunity for the people of Zimbabwe to speak out against the bill. It's so choreographed, so much that you can clearly see the intention is to pass it at whatever cost. This is not how you implement such major changes to the Constitution. You must do it openly. You must follow the law. And all that has been explained by other speakers. But here is what I will say is a major takeaway of everything that has happened. I personally have fought the process. I've spoken out against it, even from my organization, Transform Zimbabwe, and also from the Defend the Constitution platform. We are working with others, including the National Constitutional Assembly. We are working with the CDF. We are working with Vanamkoma Job, National Democratic Working Group, and so on. So we are very clear that we need to come together, students, labor, the workers that my sister, Comrade Tafaz was talking about. All those people have come together to say no. The message is clear. And ED and the oligarchs in ZANU-PF know the message, and they know what the people of Zimbabwe do not want. But what they simply want to do is to pass it anyway, at whatever cost. They are so determined. They are so much determined. But now I will only measure as my second point on the major takeaway from this initiative. I think as the people of Zimbabwe, whilst this is very disastrous, this process has been a disaster, and this implementation and so on is a huge disaster. But what it has also done is that it has enabled us as a people to find each other. Transform Zimbabwe gave me a mandate to say whoever is fighting this, whoever is against this bill, for this season they become our friend. Whoever is saying no to the amendment of the Constitution, according to Bill number 3, becomes a friend. For now, we have to work with them, and we have to set aside our differences. That is very important. Yes, we have got a value system then to watch and check. But what this bill has done to us is that it is giving us an opportunity to come together and speak with one voice in defying its implementation. And this, to me, is a big opportunity. So it means that even within ZANU-PF, there's a faction which knows and is saying that what the oligarchs are doing is wrong and must be stopped. We must work with those people. In the churches, for the first time, the churches, the proper churches, not the Chivayo captured individuals who masquerade as churches, they've been very clear in terms of their position. Why not embrace them and come together with them and fight? Students, workers, there's been a rejuvenation of everybody to come up and speak against this bill. So this is a great opportunity for all of us to then come together. I am, of course, deeply disturbed that sometimes we talk. I'm not a fan of talk shows. But also I understand that debating is very critical. Cross-pollination of ideas, sharing ideas and building a way forward and a consensus is important. But we need to follow through and act on our resolutions and what we decide to do. So what I'm urging is that beyond the discussion today, we need to come up with a clear mapping of a way forward to say this is what the people of Zimbabwe are agreeing. Those who are opposed to CAB3, they are agreeing number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And let us implement that. We've got a huge guarantee from the Constitution which they want to violate in section 59 of the same Constitution. It provides for the citizens to protest and petition and demonstrate. We can use that section to get into the streets peacefully as provided for in the Constitution and say, no, we demand for a referendum at basic minimum. Why shouldn't they follow the law? The law can't be violated. We understand we've got processes where we are trying to, engage with the courts and seek recourse. Of course, not necessarily speaking on behalf of DCP, but at a very personal level. I've been fought and I've been, I think the right word would be persecuted by the courts. So I have no much hope and faith in the court system, the judiciary system in this country. They are captured, largely captured.
Well, that is Jacob Ngarivume from Defend the Constitution platform. I see he has dropped. I am assuming he's facing network challenges. Is Comrade Ngarivume in? It seems like he has dropped. He is highlighting the works that the Defend the Constitution platform has been doing in terms of mobilizing from the onset of the proposed amendment bill, since it has been, charted across Zimbabwe in all spheres and sectors as a populist bill that seeks to, preserve the richness of the oligarchs. This is what Comrade Jacob Ngarivume has been doing, and we are expecting that from all the works that the Defend the Constitution platform and the CTF, one of the commenters is asking here that people know the issues. The question is, how do you bring these people together to a collective front, which is ready to pursue a resistance and from clear objectives confront the amendment bill. And besides, if the bill passes, how do you reconvene as a people to say that okay, fine, this has happened? How do we come together and confront the realities that affect the average and general Zimbabwean, particularly the Zimbabweans that are affected, are in the same bracket of the 52% unemployment rate, and how do we come about with a functional economy? I see we are joined by Honorable Agency Kumbo. He is a member of parliament, and he's also been involved highly in mobilizing citizens and rejecting, the amendment bill with the Defend the Constitution platform. Comrade Kumbo, can you hear me?
Yes, Comrade Maj. I can hear you. I don't know if I'm audible. I'm having challenges. Intermittently, I'm losing the sound from the presenters, but I hope I am audible.
Perfect. You are indeed audible. Indeed perfect. Audible. Welcome to the People's Summit on Constitution Amendment Bill, and we're pleased to have you sharing your views with us in terms of the processes that Parliament has taken and the works that DCP probably has taken, and continuation from where Comrade Ngarivume had left. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade. Is that an invitation for me to now give my thoughts?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Comrade Moderator, and also I extend my greetings to everyone who is on this platform and listening in on this People's Summit, which I believe is a very critical initiative to allow the people of Zimbabwe, to summit around a very consequential national issue, which is the attempts that we are seeing underway by ZANU-PF and those that wish to subvert the democratic transition in this country through what I would want to call unprogressive, retrogressive constitutional amendments. And I say so with caution because I do not want to be heard to say that constitutions cannot be amended. I'm a constitutional lawyer, and amendments are not an alien thing to constitutions. Constitutions are by their very nature meant to be amended in order to suit and in order to align with the demands of the modern society. In constitutional language, we say constitutions are living documents. They evolve in any way in the world, even in what we consider modern democracies. Constitutions have been changed, constitutions have been amended. But constitutional amendments must be undertaken within and within the bounds of certain set principles of constitutional development. Constitutional amendments must be progressive. constitutional amendments must be undertaken to entrench democratic principles, to entrench the rights of the people, to further the principle of separation of powers, and to limit executive overreach. This is what any amendment, this is the test that we must subject every amendment of the Constitution, because a constitutional amendment can itself be unconstitutional. And it can be unconstitutional because of the text, but it can also be unconstitutional because of the processes undertaken to advance such an amendment. So when one looks at the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, one must ask themselves these fundamental questions. We must move beyond the textual amendments. We must move beyond the rationale and ask ourselves what are the consequences of the constitutional amendments. Because when we interrogate the consequences, this is when we can come to a conclusion regarding whether or not these amendments are themselves, progressive. Are they good for our society? Are they good for the future of our country? Are they a reflection of the aspirations of democratic transition and consolidation in the country? So I'm just giving this background because I want to speak less like a lawyer. I know I saw there were presenters who came here and, broke down the Constitutional Amendment Bill, what it means, the text, and so on and so forth. I know Dr. Siposan Malunga was also presenting. Unfortunately, I was also in another engagement, and I could not follow through every presentation, but I do trust because as the moderator has noted, people are now quite aware of the issues. People are now quite aware of the what is being proposed through this constitutional amendment bill. What perhaps I would want to touch on, as requested by the organizers, is the processes that have been undertaken so far, starting with where the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, on behalf of Cabinet, presented to the nation the memorandum which was adopted by Cabinet, the memorandum which speaks to the thought process of government, the thought process of ZANU-PF. I know this is an issue that can be drawn back to the resolutions from ZANU-PF, but I would want to focus specifically my discussion from when the memorandum was presented to the public, because the memorandum tells us the thinking of government. It tells us the motivation behind. We know there are deep-seated intentions that have been presented, but we are now, comrades, undergoing a legal process. And the argument that ZANU-PF has given through their Minister of Justice is that this bill is meant to achieve an elimination or reduction of what they call election toxicity. They are also advancing the idea that the bill is meant to align the developmental aspirations of this government with the time frame within which they stay in power, so on and so forth. I'm just sort of summarizing so that I don't have to regurgitate what is written in the bill, in the memorandum. I'm sure everyone has read. So after that, after the memorandum was presented, we saw that the bill was gazetted by the Speaker of Parliament, and there's a 90-day window which was given, within which then the public was invited to interact with the bill. And that interaction with the bill took the form of public consultations that were undertaken by Parliament, being led by the Justice Committee. I sit on the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs of Parliament. But that was not the only committee which was mandated with conducting the public hearings. The public hearings were conducted by several committees. We had, the committee on women affairs, which was there. We had the committee on defense and home affairs and security services. We had the committee on youth and youth affairs. We had the committee on peace, which is a senatorial thematic committee, which also joined along for the public hearing. So we were then divided into different groups to tour the various provinces across the country. And in the consultation processes, this is what we all witnessed. We all saw what happened. There was an obvious crowd maneuvering undertaken by ZANU-PF. They mobilized heavily to ensure that the public hearings were attended by their structures. Every venue was pegged with ZANU-PF people. Perhaps a lesson that we must quickly highlight from that before we talk about the outcomes from these hearings. The lesson that we learned was that there was massive need for us to, as the opposition and for us as the democratic alternative, to mobilize our people to come out. We must also accept where we were weak. We were weak in terms of our mobilization. We did not have numbers on the ground. In as much as we complained of the busing of people and so on and so forth, I take a more pragmatic view of things, particularly political mobilization. We, in our different groupings, could have done more. We could have ensured that we had big numbers. And there were instances, of course, where, you can take Harare, for example, you can take Bulawayo, for example, where despite the mobilization efforts, there was also a deliberate plan by Parliament administration to administratively frustrate the hearing or the public consultations. How did they do this? They would go, for example, in a place like Harare, in a place like Bulawayo, they'll pick a venue which, anyone could understand. You can't pick White City if you want to go into, you can't pick, this City Hall for Bulawayo, which has a limited capacity, knowing well that there was going to be a huge turnout. So as a result, you had a number of people who had come there who did not have the opportunity to air out their views, who did not have the opportunity to even enter the venue of the public consultations. That was an administrative and a technical disadvantage visited upon the citizens, because you ended up having a few people airing out their views. But of course, it was not without deliberate plan. It was with a plan. ZANU-PF's plan was to minimize access in areas where they knew dissenting voices would be more prominent. So they'll do that, and coupled with that, they'll have some of their people come and sleep at the venue, so that by the time it is the program starts, the venue space is already pegged with their sympathizers and their supporters. Again, we note that administrative fault, but we were supposed, I know comrades here who are listening and some who have presented are not new to the issue of political mobilization. We failed to match ZANU-PF toe to toe on issues of on mobilization, because in another time, we were supposed to have our supporters and those with dissenting voices sleep also together with those ZANU-PF activists at these venues. But this is a lesson we have learned, but which does not take away from the fact that there was supposed to be justice in the manner in which people were allowed access to these consultations, so that there was they could have created robust debate. This is why you then see this report that is coming out from this public consultation, because there were other areas where the dissenting voices were totally silent. We must accept that fact, because it's a fact. There are areas like Nyanga, there are areas like Mutasa in Manika land, there are areas like Chipinge, there are areas, Marsh West, there are numerous areas where at the public hearing consultations, we just did not have numbers on the ground. We just did not have enough people to raise their voice against this bill. ZANU-PF had started its mobilization from the time that it did its resolution. We came late to the party in terms of mobilization. And as a result, the dissenting voices were overshadowed. It does not mean that there were no dissenting voices. It does not mean that there was general consensus from the citizens. So these public hearings, because of the way they were engineered and minimum venues, short periods of time, just 2 hours to go through this robust debate, it was not adequate. We raised these things when we were in the Justice Committee. We raised them. Obviously, the report that will come out is reflective of the majority of the voices in the committee, which majority was ZANU-PF and ZANU-PF Light. I will explain who ZANU-PF Light is later in my presentation, but everyone already knows this. So we did raise queries around the time frame, queries around the number of venues, queries around the administrative maneuvering of crowds, which we witnessed through these public hearings. But again, another form of engagement which was open to the public was the write-ups that the public were asked to make to Parliament, writing to Parliament. We saw several, and we commend the several efforts made by the various groups that we have represented here through the various speakers I've seen, where we called out our membership, we called out to our supporters, and we called out to all progressive Zimbabweans and created mechanisms through which Zimbabweans could write to Parliament. The writings went. People used the various websites, writing to Parliament. Some delivered letters, by hand. Some wrote emails to the Clerk of Parliament, which is commended. And as a member of the Justice Committee, I saw the numerous objections that were written to Parliament. But again, we witnessed how ZANU-PF activated its political infrastructure, its structures, so to say, forced people to sign affidavits, brought representations which were written in a manner that you would wonder sometimes to say, can such kind of English be written by mbuya agents vari kumberengwa uko, making such submissions? So obviously what they did is they came up with these generic submissions, just made people to sign. In some villages, they were not even concerned about whether a person is in their structure or not. The kind of political polarization and the intimidation that happens in rural areas. So ZANU-PF will just send one of their chairmen. Traditional leaders were also activated for this purpose, and they would make people sign this generic, submission to Parliament. And you saw how also the Gananda infrastructure activated Mapostori, churches, and so on and so forth. And the parallel structures that ZANU-PF created, those something for EDs, top soup for ED, whatever it is for ED, they were activated to make submissions to Parliament. So this is perhaps why you then see the statistics that were presented were big numbers, because you'd have truckloads and truckloads of documents and submissions brought physically to Parliament by ZANU-PF in order to create this perception that there is a general consensus across the country, that there is overwhelming endorsement from the citizens of the amendment bill. So this is the process that Parliament underwent within those 90 days. And at the close of the 90 days, all representations were now before Parliament. And immediately after that, you saw what happened. There was the first reading of the bill in Parliament by the Minister of Justice. This is a process in the lawmaking process. I don't want to educate to sound like a lecturer on that, but after the first reading of the bill, what happens is, with every other bill, after first reading, a bill stands referred to the Parliament Legal Committee, which is a committee really which looks at whether or not any submission, any legislation is ultra vires the Constitution. But with the Constitutional Amendment Bill, it does not require that stage analysis. The Parliament Legal Committee, the PLC, does not have to sit down to consider a constitutional amendment bill. Immediately after the reading of the first reading, the bill proceeds to the second reading, which then was done in the second reading. The minister then presents the bill to Parliament and, speaks to his memorandum. He does what we call that bill presentation speech. He presents the rationale behind the bill, and then he presents clause by clause the bill to the House. After that, we then saw the report that was presented by Honorable Jobo, who is the chairperson of the Justice Committee. He presented the bill. He presented the report or the findings from the public consultations. There were three other critical engagements that happened between the Justice Committee and three institutions. Number one, it was the Chiefs Council. The Chiefs Council requested to come and make presentation to the Justice Committee in respect of the clauses that affect them as the chiefs. Number two was the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which came in also and made its own presentations because there are clauses in this amendment bill which affect it. Then number three, we had the Gender Commission, which also came. In essence, despite how the report was then doctored and presented, obviously it was then presented not to be reflective of the true intentions of these three critical institutions that came to interact with Parliament. Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, the Chiefs Council, and the Zimbabwe Gender Commission, their presentation to the Justice Committee was a rejection on the clauses that speak to how they do their operations. The Zimbabwe Gender Commission came and pleaded that Parliament must consider not removing it and not co-joining its functions with that of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission came and demonstrated to Parliament how difficult it would be to maintain independence in electoral management if the two critical functions of voter registration and voters roll management, and then of the boundaries and so on and so forth, were removed from its purview and imposed to a delimitation commission or the Registrar General's office, depending on which part the bill speaks to. They simply say, look, it's possible, yes, but it is not reflective of the very spirit of independence that was enshrined within the 2013 Constitution. Because the 2013 Constitution, when it created an independent Zimbabwe Electoral Commission with all these functions that are reflected in the current Constitution, this was as a result of, a consensus that in order to deal away with this vicious cycle of disputed elections in this country, we needed a neutral actor in the entire election process. And the election process is not just about management of the election. It's not just about the day of the election. There is a pre-election period, during election period, and post-electoral period, which all taken together are critical processes in determining whether an election is free and fair. So this is why in 2013, parties agreed to say, let's create an independent body to deal with the entire election processes. We had the Mudede issue, which was contentious, where the Registrar General used to do the registration. And that because of those contests, parties then agreed, let's have the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which is an independent commission, free from executive overreach, free from executive influence, even though, yes, then operationally we had our queries. But the intention of creating an independent electoral commission was to ensure that all processes are run by that commission. So this is ZEC's submission to the Justice Committee. But of course, because because of the politics in this country, they after making that submission, they still remain indebted to the processes that will happen in Parliament. They are indebted to other political influences, if I may. And this is the same thing with the chiefs. The chiefs did not mince their words. The chiefs clearly indicated that they are judicial officers considered in terms of the Constitution, section, and they make reference to section 2661, 64 going forward. Their role, they are presiding officers outside of them being custodians of our cultural heritage and so on and so forth. They are presiding officers. They must not, by the very nature that by the very reason that they preside over our local customary courts, they cannot be found to be partisan in their politics. I hear the argument that Ziambi tries to advance together with ZANU-PF propagandists on this issue to say, no, why, if they have the right to vote, why can they not have the right? They are already participating in politics and so. But there's a difference between enunciating political rights and what they are proposing to do here, because the law as it stands does not take away any political rights of chiefs. Rather, what we see is a critical limitation to that right, a limitation which arises out of constitutional office. This is the same thing and the same reason why a judge of the High Court, a judge of the Supreme Court, a magistrate is generally prohibited from being partisan, because when you assume the constitutional office of a judicial officer, you are required to be fair to everyone. And we know how partisan alliances can diminish the capacity of a judicial officer to act in a just and fair manner. So the limitation on the chiefs is also in consideration of the fact that there are people who preside over cultural and heritage issues which are cut across the political divide, which cut across communities. So you cannot have that same person, again, be given that free partisan participation tag. It makes it difficult for them to execute their constitutional functions. So these are some of the reasons that the chiefs themselves agreed to. They agreed to this to this reasoning and said, look, we are happy not being partisan, because chiefs, they guard jealously the status they hold in communities. And they communicated this. Unfortunately, this is not well captured. It's captured, yes, but not well captured in the report that was then presented to Parliament. So what happens is, yes, there could be objections that we had to the report. And I saw a debate that also ensued on the public domain to say who exactly was on this committee, who decided, who came up with these recommendations. And I must advise the people at this summit and the people of Zimbabwe that that the report was read and presented and the recommendations were made the way they were does not necessarily mean that there was unanimous endorsement of that report. There was a mistake, which I must insist on. The committee's function and duty in this process was to simply read out what came from the public consultations and other consultations, and then the submissions made. I then was also surprised as a member of parliament, and I took issue with the chairperson of the Justice Committee, including the clerk of the Justice Committee, to say, why, after reading out the findings, did we proceed to make recommendations to parliament? Because the committee is not required to make recommendations to parliament in respect of the direction it must take on the bill. We were simply supposed to say this was the findings from the people, these were the dissenting voices, these were the assenting voices, and we end there. The committee must not appear as though it sat down to vote on recommendations, because that never happened. That never happened. This is not the kind of bill that the committee was meant to make these recommendations, because we cannot assume that everyone on the committee agreed to the said recommendations. So there was a mishap with that. But you can see the trend. ZANU-PF, since it started, what it's trying to do is to shape narrative, is to paint this picture that there is national consensus on the bill. They started off with after it was, they started off internally during the resolutions and so on and so forth. And then after that, you saw this serious propaganda around CAB3, now Makombi in town, posters here and there, artists being bought to endorse CAB3 so that they can create this outlook of a national program, a national resolution, a national consensus on the change to the constitution. So that's what also was underlying in the report presented by the Justice Committee. After the presentation of the committee report, this is when debates open. This is when, I'm sure all of us have been following the debates, all of us have been following what's happening in Parliament. But there's a lot of politics that is happening beyond what you see on the screen during the debate. We have highlighted this. Some of you know what's the politics behind, but I'm just going to speak to that. So, under normal circumstances, the standing orders of Parliament, they indicate that when debate is open, the process through which debate is conducted is simply that the presiding officer identifies a member who would have stood up to indicate that they want to debate. The old system was just when the speaker calls, is there any debate? A member would rise to their feet and announce that they were prepared to debate, and this presiding officer with the Speaker of Parliament must pick from those that would have rose up to their feet, pick any to debate whatever motion is before the House. But however, that there was an intervention in that process, an intervention which is not necessarily captured in the standing orders of Parliament. That intervention was, number one, that the House would be divided in debate, and a ratio system would be used, and that ratio is determined by the numbers that each party has in Parliament. And in our case, in the current Parliament, yes, Presenter, am I taking too much time?
You have 3 minutes, yes, yes.
I have 3 minutes left
Yes.
before I go to the heart of the issues. But anyway, let me try. Can I ask for 8?
Okay, fine.
Good.
Soft 8, a soft 8, yeah.
A soft 8. Good. So now it's three members who present from two members who present from ZANU PF and one who presents from the opposition. That's the ratio. But after that, each chief whip from both these parties, there's this system that they then presented. We have tried to fight it. We continue to fight that system because it's not very fair. So the chief whips present a list of people who are to debate. And this has been done with all the bills that have come to Parliament. It's also done on Wednesday when we ask the ministers questions on policies. So 2 ZANU PF, 1 opposition. Now this is where the Chabang factor kicks in, because the leader of the opposition, ZANU PF, has engineered. Everyone knows what happened. We have Sengezo Chabang. Then the chief whip and the deputy chief whip of parliament of the opposition are Chabango people. Bridget Nyandoro is the deputy chief whip. She was elected together with us. She sold out. Now she's the deputy chief whip and answering to Chabang. So they have deliberately made sure that the list that they present to the Speaker of Parliament for debaters excludes non opponents to CAB3. All people who have been vocal against CAB3, myself included. In fact, I am at the top of the list. I was put on the last, I'm the last debater on the list. And this is the same thing with a lot of other MPs, Ropa, Makumire, Honorable Koban Matzvanika, all progressive caucus MPs, because we are divided in the opposition caucus. And all persons who have chosen to not align themselves with Chabangu and the ZANU PF, they have been excluded from the first debaters. And yet, how can you have certain, I don't want to seem to undermine other people, but this is a critical national constitutional amendment debate. And you have some funny characters being given the right to be the first responders to the Justice Minister's bill. We have no clue what constitutional amendment means. They don't even understand these very rules of the parliament they are in. They were just put there to serve this current purpose. So you have a lot of voices being excluded. But we have protested to the Speaker outside the House. But we have also protested to the Speaker in the House until the Speaker has made a ruling that everyone is going to debate. So we are hoping that everyone is going to be given an opportunity to air out their views. They tried to put in some people. You've seen Honorable Mangwa has come up, but everyone is now having to use some tricks in order to be allowed on the list, because Honorable Mangwa had to say, I know I have some things that I support and some things that I don't support, so my presentation will be balanced, only to then go all out against the bill when he was given the opportunity. This is the same thing with Honorable Thomas Mozer from RUA. Right now, I just received a call earlier from him. He's under serious threats. He's been receiving calls from CIO, receiving calls, so on and so forth, because they're saying, we protected you when you were supposed to be recalled. So now every MP is under spotlight from the state, but also from Chabangu. They tried to intimidate MPs with recalls again. Why? Because ZANU PF, when they created Chabangu, what they had hoped for was a unanimous endorsement of this resolution, of this amendment bill. Some few weeks before we came to this time, there was an attempt by Chabangu to sort of unite everyone in the opposition, because he had lied to ZANU PF to say, I can deliver to you 100% of the opposition. But obviously they will ask you to go on agents, say. So they even tried to reach out to us and try to say, guys, let's move on this thing as a united front and so on and so forth. Because ZANU-PF, what it is hoping for is a unanimous yes vote in Parliament towards this bill. Now, voting is going to happen next week. Debate is adjourned on Thursday, but debate resumes on Tuesday. Debate will happen again on Wednesday. On Thursday, we shall undertake what is called a committee stage, which is another stage from last in lawmaking process. At committee stage, what we are going to be doing is debating. When Parliament is in committee, it is no longer in session as the House. There is no speaker. There is a chairperson. The speaker assumes the role of a chairperson and chair the committee of Parliament. It's called a committee of the whole House. At this stage, this is now where the technically savvy people like ourselves will be more important, because we are debating clause by clause. We are considering each clause presented by this bill and we proffer amendments. And the position we have taken is that the only amendment we are going to proffer for every clause in this bill is total rejection. We are going to propose amendments for deletion of every clause in the bill. That's what we are going to do, because we don't agree with anything. There is nothing progressive, not even a single clause is progressive. So after committee stage, and people have attended to each clause, debating each clause, profiling amendments, altering. This is where even the drafting issue comes in. There are even recommendations for drafting and so on and so forth. After that, this is then becomes the most consequential stage of this bill in Parliament, which is the votes. Thursday next week, if everything goes according to what has been proposed, next week, Thursday, members of Parliament are going to vote for or against this bill. This is a very contentious but consequential stage, because this is where you will know who supported or who opposed this bill genuinely. ZANU-PF itself is afraid because they are not so sure and confident about their numbers. That's why you saw Ziyambi coming out to whip, how the process is going to go. There's also a contentious issue around whether or not this vote must happen by secret ballot, or it must happen by open acclamation that we do with other bills. We are strongly proposing.
I'll be pulling you to land, Honorable Kumbo. I'll be pulling you to land.
Okay. Yeah, I'm landing now. We are pushing for a secret ballot. And I would want to urge, in all that we are saying in opposition to CAB3, everyone in their different groups and different organizations, let's, over and above demanding a referendum, let us demand that Thursday happens by secret ballot. Let us demand that what happens on Thursday, MPs are allowed to exercise their. Of course, ZANU-PF is hell bent on making it a public process so that they can manage dissent even in their own space. But here's what citizens must also do. If we failed to mobilize each other during the consultation processes, comrades and friends, there are 210 constituencies with 210 members of parliament. One way that we can influence this process is to mobilize in these different constituencies. Let comrades go to their MP's properties, house. If you can't protest in the streets of Harare, surely you can protest in the village of Gokwe, Kuna MP. So if we can mobilize between now and then to have people go and register their voices, Pamba MP, it doesn't have to be there. Just go there, you know how protests work. Even if there are 10 young people, go to your MP's house, hold a placard, and force your MP to hear what you yourself as a constituent are saying. Let's have 10 people, 100 people go to Honorable Gumbo's house, Honorable Gumbo's office, and there lift placards, put in a petition to say, I am expecting you as a person who voted for you to vote no to this bill. This is our last round of mobilizing before the vote. We can
Yes, yes.
achieve that. Let the vote, MP vote ku parliament. Achiziva kuti kumba kwake kuna vanhu vakagara pasi vakamirira kuti aite upenzi.
All right, all right, all right.
So we've got to start thinking like that if we are going to influence this process. Of course, there are processes that we will discuss that must then happen after. But for want of time, I will end here. I think I have taken you through the processes of parliament, and what I'm thinking must be a focus. What do we do? Let's do this. Why can't we mobilize people to go to each MP's best place and register their dissent?
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you, Comrade Bate. I know ngithatha isikhathi sakho esiningi kakhulu ungiqolele ngohlonishwa.
Siyabonga, siyabonga, Honorable. Thank you very much for that insightful presentation that you've given us with regards to the work that Parliament has taken and the DCP, which is very insightful and concurs with what most presenters have said. I see it is 7 minutes before lunch, before we, break to reconvene in our diverse groups as we, try to come up and consolidate the findings and recommendations that the People's Summit has moved today. So I see the next speaker was promised to be very short, and she is going to be very short indeed. She has a 5 minutes presentation. Is Tsitsi Mtamba, a student leader, a renowned student leader, and advocate for gender inclusiveness. She's going to take us through Constitution Amendment Bill and resilience towards patriarchy. Comrade Tsitsi, I'm seeing she's dropping a message in the chat box that she can't hear me. Can you log out and log back in again? Probably I'll be more audible that way. Log out and log in, then you can hear me. Yes, she has logged out. So as I was introducing the next speaker, she's an advocate for gender inclusiveness, and she's been very active in the students' movement, the Zimbabwe National Students' Movement, which she has seen its president, Comrade Libertama, also alongside former President Emmanuel Stima of the DCP as well, and Takunda Muka, being arrested and spending over 2 months in Harare Remand Prison, where they've been incarcerated for malicious damage of property worth $10 by the state. These are the events that have, transpired in the environment, which is leading to this, fast track amendment of the Constitution. Is Comrade Tsitsi Mtamba now audible? Can you hear me? Am I audible, Comrade Tsitsi? You can unmute your mic. Yes, unmute your mic, Comrade Tsitsi. Thank you very much. Yes. Welcome, Comrade Tsitsi. I've made an introduction and I have asserted the listeners that you're going to be short and brief. You can take us through what it means for Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 and confronting patriarchy within this atmosphere. Thank you.
Greetings, comrades. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are indeed audible. You can also turn your camera on. Tsitsi? Assuming she's facing network challenges, but she's reconvening, and communicating in the chat box that she is trying to access the platform on the People's Summit on Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. If you are back on the live, you can proceed, Comrade Titi.
Okay, thank you so much, Comrade Kigen. I'm sure you have noticed I'm facing some problems with my camera, so I will
Yes.
do with my video off.
All right.
Okay, so revolutionary greetings, fellow citizens of this wounded and unbroken land, comrades in the struggle, daughters, mothers, grandmothers, and the girls who will bear us if we do not act today. Workers, peasants, teachers, nurses, and the unemployed was labor holds up to refuse to hold them. To the 52.33%, the majority, the unforgotten, the furious, the resilient, and to the men who have chosen to see clearly, I greet you not with comfort, but with truth. Comrades and friends, I stand before you today not as a politician, not as a scholar, not as anyone whose name will appear on a building. I stand before you as a daughter of this soil, as someone who has watched an 11-year-old in Blawayo push a child out of your own child's body, while your mother called it consensual. As someone who has held a hand of a widow in Mutoko, where your late husband's brother loaded your furniture onto a cart and told you to go back to your father's house. These are not just stories or reports. These are Wednesdays, our Sundays, our unremarkable days. And now, we are told that the Zimbabwe Gender Commission, the only institution in this country with a constitutional mandate dedicated solely to the struggle against gender inequality, may be dissolved, that its functions will be transferred to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. And now they want to dissolve it. Not with a bang, not with a public execution, with a quiet proposal to transfer its mandate to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, a commission that is already choking on complaints
All right, good afternoon, comrades. I think Comrade Tsitsi is facing challenges with the network because we can't hear her. Comrade Tsitsi, were you still presenting? I also think our host has dropped, so I will be taking over for now. We'll be going over to lunch. The lunch will take 30 minutes. Okay, I can see Comrade Tsitsi has come back. Let me try to re-add her. Comrade Tsitsi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you may proceed. We were no longer hearing you.
So where can I start? Hello?
I think I heard the first audible.
The first what?
I think you can restart your presentation.
Okay. So technology, you know. Greetings, revolutionary greetings, fellow citizens of the wounded unbroken land. I hope I'm still audible enough.
You are audible. I can confirm.
Okay, thank you. So I stand before you today, not as a politician, not as a scholar, not as anyone whose name will appear on a building. I stand before you as a daughter of this soil, as someone who has watched an 11-year-old girl in Blawayo push a child out of your own child's body, while your mother call it consensual. As someone who has held the hand of a widow in Mutoko, while your late husband's brother loaded your furniture onto a cart and told her to go back to your father's house. These are not just stories from a report. These are our Wednesdays, our Sundays, our remarkable days. A mandate dedicated solely to the struggle against gender inequality may be dissolved, that its functions will be transferred to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, and now they want to dissolve it. Not with a bang, not with a public execution, with a quiet proposal to transfer its mandate to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, a commission that is already choking on complaints about police brutality, evictions, disability rights, child marriages, and 1,000 other emergencies. Let me be painfully clear, comrades. The Gender Commission is not a luxury. It functions. Section 246 of our Constitution. They are not suggestions. There are a difference between a girl staying in school and a girl becoming a bride, between a widow keeping a home and a widow sleeping under a tree, between a complaint being investigated and a complaint being lost in a pair of papers. When you transfer the Gender Commission to a general human rights body, you are not streamlining, you are burying, you are saying to every woman who has been beaten by a husband and told this is a family matter, you are not a priority. You are saying to every young girl who has been touched by an uncle and told, don't ruin his name, your body is not specialized enough for attention. Do not tell me about efficiency. Comrades and friends, women are 52.33% of the Zimbabwean population. They are the majority. The majority is not a portfolio. It is not a diversity box. It is the spine of this nation. And you cannot outsource the spine to a general hospital already overflowing with broken limbs. So I stand here today angry not because I hate this country, but because I love the women who are in this country, and I refuse to watch their only specialized defender be treated like a football club, promoted, relegated, dissolved, as if the lives of the majority are a game. We have seen what happens when women are given space. We have seen women lead boards, board committees, market associations, school boards, or even churches. We have seen the quiet revolution of a woman in Epworth who started a savings club with $10 and now feeds 30 children. We have seen our own strength, and we have also seen how quickly that strength is ignored when the men in power decide that gender is just another right. So let me close this opening with a question, and I want every woman, every girl, every honest man to carry it in their chest. If the majority of this nation cannot have its own commission, its own investigators, its own researchers, its own prosecutors dedicated solely to the struggle against the patriarch, then what does that say about who really rules here? The answer is not comfortable. We have never been comfortable, and will not start now. So I stand here to say, on behalf of every woman who has ever been told to wait, to be patient, to trust the process, no. We say no to the dissolution of the Zimbabwe Gender Commission. We say no to the transfer of its mandate to an already congested Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. We say no to treating the lives of the majority as an administrative afterthought. And we say yes to strengthening the Zimbabwe Gender Commission. Yes to funding it properly. Yes to giving it the investigators, the prosecutors, the researchers, the reach that Section 246 of our Constitution already promised us. We are not asking for a new law. We are asking for the law we already have to be respected. So, comrades and friends, Aluta continua. The girl from Blawayo is watching, and she will not forgive us if we stay silent. Thank you.
Mtamba, who has spoken rightly about the dissolution of the Gender Commission and how much women and young women and the women in Zimbabwe generally are going to be affected by this resolution to dissolve the Gender Commission, and he speaks to the challenges and struggles that have been faced by women in Zimbabwe and how the Gender Commission has acted as a panacea to those challenges that were facing women in Zimbabwe. And so the dissolution of such then, robs women and young women, especially, of an anchor and support system that the Gender Commission has been in terms of its mandate in promoting human rights and particularly the rights of women as well, that had been at the receiving end of the issues of gender-based violence and the domination of patriarchy across Zimbabwe. That was Tsitsi Mutamba, a firebrand activist and women and gender inclusivist in the students' movement, at the Zimbabwe National Students' Movement, and also serves as the active member rather of the Defend the Constitution platform. Thank you very much, Tsitsi, for those insightful conversations. Yes, you were audible. So we shall be breaking into our thematic groups as we are headed for lunch, and we want to consolidate, compile, the findings and submissions that have been made within this summit from 9 a.m. up until right now at 1:12, and we shall be reconvening again at lunch, which is after lunch, which is 2:00. And so we shall be meeting in our thematic WhatsApp groups to discuss and compile all the said issues that have been raised and brought forward today. Amandla.